What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk podcast. It's your host, Harry Scarfe, here with another episode today, reviewing that 2-0 win over Reading. Thomas Frank getting off to a winning start. We'll also be talking transfers and plenty of other things. Tottenham. So let's introduce today's panel. Firstly, Gary, welcome back. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, great. Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. You well?
Yeah, very well. Appreciate you having me back, and good to chat with some new people about Tottenham and obviously Lewis again.
Lovely stuff. Thank you. Ian, welcome back on from Spurs Diehards. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. So I said to you, we didn't finish Die Hard till up as 12 last night, and on this morning, and I was up early. So, yeah. I'm good. As ever, optimistic of where we're at. So, no doubt we'll talk about stuff as we go through.
Lovely stuff. We love the optimism. Thanks for joining us. Phillip, welcome back on. How you doing?
Thanks, Harry. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. And thanks for having me back on. And I think to copy and paste Ian's optimism, feeling pretty good this week. So about Spurs, I think we got some good stuff happening. So yeah, feeling good to get into it.
Good stuff. Love that to hear that. And Lewis, welcome back on. How you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to be doing these shows. And it seems like everyone's happy to be a Spurs fan right now. So, I mean, that's good. Don't really get that much.
No, you certainly don't. So it's good at the moment. Long may it continue. If you need the channel, please do like and subscribe. If you listen after on a podcast platform, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. I'd like to kick off this podcast with some news about Paul Gascoigne, because Spurs legend Paul Gascoigne has been rushed to intensive care after being found collapsed at home. So I just want to send mine and I think everyone on the panel's best wishes to him and wish him a speedy recovery. Because it's awful, and I think a lot of people making jokes out there and really inappropriate stuff, which is sad to see. So thoughts with him and his family at the moment, and we'll update you if we hear anything throughout the podcast. But let's get into the talking points then. I want to start going back before Reading, Thomas Frank's first press conference as Tottenham manager. Gary, what were your thoughts on it? How do you think he came across?
Yeah, really well. I like the way he speaks. The eye contact was something I noticed very quickly, and especially with answering questions. Definitely clear in sort of his mannerisms, the way he's explaining things. So yeah, I've always enjoyed the way he talks, even when he was at Brentford, and some of the stuff he's done for Sky, and little things you can see on YouTube. I think it's Coach's Corner, I think it's called, where he does a quite large tactical analysis. Really enjoy a lot about him, and I think he came off really well in the press conference. And very excited to see him take all of that enthusiasm onto the training ground and then onto the pitch as well.
100%. No, I feel the same. I think he came across really well myself. Ian, what did you make of that Thomas Frank first press conference?
There was a few criticisms of it, that he sounded a bit, didn't have that positivity and what have you. But this is a big jump for Thomas Frank. And I'm sure, he's found everything about Tottenham is like 10 times the size it is at Brentford. And whilst he's probably more comfortable on the training ground doing what he does on the training ground, I think some of the other stuff would probably have taken him a little bit by surprise. I think people are astonished at the facilities that exist at the training ground, and I've not seen it, but I gather everything is massive there. I don't have any worries about that. I think all I'm interested in is what his teams do on the pitch, and no doubt we'll come to that. I think most of us were pretty happy with what we saw on Saturday afternoon.
100%. No, I think that's a good way to look at it. Phillip, in that press conference, he said he hadn't made up his mind who would be captain. Does this, surprise you? Did you just expect that Son would be the captain?
No, not really. I mean, I still think that Son will leave the club. I think he's obviously staying for the Asia tour. It sounds like he's got there's some contractual obligation, right? That he kind of has to play, right? In, I think we're playing in South Korea, aren't we? So I assume, it's obvious he's going to play there. but I think we're going to lose a lot of money if he didn't play there. And I think he's going to leave the club. So I'm not surprised that he didn't, nail Son's name on the mast as the captain. Romero is still, up for debate as a potential, departee. Although I think that Romero will probably stay in the end because I don't think there's too many teams that are actually concretely in for him and can afford him. So I'm not surprised that Frank didn't kind of make it clear. And to be honest, I wouldn't expect him to. It'd be stupid to, right? So to summarize, I think Frank did a good job. I think he came across very well. He's always been a good speaker. I think he's always got on well with the press. The press have never had too much beef with him. And to kind of just mention Gary's words, I think from before, like it was quite interesting to see how he did, look into the eyes of everyone very, very, very clearly. Whether that has anything to do with his predecessor and obviously the press and everything else, I don't know. But Thomas Frank comes across very well, to the fans and to the press, and he always has done. And I think he will continue to do that. And I was happy with how he came across.
Thank you, Phillip. That's what we want to hear. Lewis, I come to you. He called Ange Postecoglou a Tottenham legend. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, no, I agree with him. It's weird, but no, I would agree with that. It's just a legacy, isn't it? Although was he playing like breathtaking football? I mean, was I week in week out watching Ange Postecoglou thinking, I love this manager, we should keep him forever? And was the last season's Premier League season the hardest watch of my life? Yeah, it probably was. But I mean, in the end of the day, that one night was worth it. And he's a Tottenham legend. We need to, as a club, we need to earmark legends a bit more. I know we've just installed the Bill Nicholson gates, but how this man doesn't have a stand after him or has a statue outside the stadium is beyond me. I'm not saying that Ange Postecoglou deserves a statue, but it could be built there. I mean, he's a Spurs legend. I would agree with that. And although the past 2 seasons in the Premier League probably weren't like revolutionary seasons, the impact of that Europa League win has actually had a massive effect on this club, and you can feel it right now. Because I mean, the signings or the rumours of players we've got linked to, players like Mohamed Kudus signing for us, and just the overall feel at the club right now that's all down to Ange Postecoglou. So I would deem him a legend.
Fair enough. Thank you, Lewis. Let's get on to the Reading game itself. So for people who didn't see it, the starting 11 for the first half was Kinski, Porro, Romero, Danso, Adogi, Benton, Corsar, Devine, and Johnson, Solanke, and Moore. Romero was the captain in the first half. There was originally a mistake. I don't know if anyone did see, but with the goalkeeper, it was Vicario, and they changed to Kinski. So I don't really know what was going on there. But Gary, I'll start back with you again. What were your thoughts on the lineup at the time?
Yeah, I was quite happy. I think it was quite normal in a pre-season friendly, especially with a squad the size that we have. That there's going to be 2 45-minute teams. Was happy to see Romero and Danzo together. I'm a big fan of Danzo, as I've mentioned previously. So it's quite good to see him playing. I like the midfield. Good to see Alfie Devine play as well. Mikey Moore. So it was nice. It was a nice mix of experience and youth. So yeah, I was pleased with the lineup, but it's not anything unexpected. The only thing I probably might have expected was probably of Kudus to start. But I mean, his impact in the second half was outstanding. So I don't think it made much difference in the end. Okay,
cheers. Ian, how do you think the team was picked? Was it picked off, fitness? Is it just randomly picked? How do you kind of view that?
What I saw is half his first choice in his head in the first half, half his first choice in the second half. For example, you've got Kinski, Romero, and what's the goalkeeper's name?
Kinski.
Vicario. We'll blank on that. He's got Porro and then Spence and what have you. No, I think this is perfectly normal. He's going to get miles into players' legs. I think we'll talk about the second half, but on Diehards on Friday night, I said I'm really looking at. Well, no, I didn't say that. I said I really hope Vuskovic gets some minutes because I really want to see if this boy's as good as he's hyped up to be. You maybe want to talk about that after, but I wouldn't be reading anything whatsoever into teams at the moment. When we go on tour, we're playing Arsenal, Chelsea, and Bayern or something like that. Is that? I haven't actually got beyond Luton yet. When we play those games, you'll start to see, first of all, players that we sign, but we'll also have a better idea, I think, going into the final games when he picks the team and the formation that he's expecting to play against PSG and Burnley, and that may vary as well. He may pick different teams in those games completely. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see indeed. Thank you very much, Ian. Lewis, I'll come to you. How much you read into that kind of lineup in terms of, is that like a first 11? Is it close to it? Or are you like Ian, you think, don't look too much into it at this stage?
I don't read too much into it though, because when Alfie Devine starts, I can't speak for a bit, but I'll be very surprised if Alfie Devine is not loaned out within the next something or other weeks. And starting Mikey Moore as well. I like to see the youth in there, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if Mikey Moore was to get a loan deal out, or just because we've got other first-team players situated. Because obviously Matisse Tell, Archie Gray, and Wilson Odobert didn't get in the squad because they just came back on Wednesday, so they also yet to play. And obviously Kulusevski, Madison didn't play, so there's still quite a lot of big names in this squad that hasn't had any minutes yet. So that's why I don't look into that at all. It was interesting, the lineup though. Because players like Alfie Devine, I wouldn't be surprised if they ever to leave the club, maybe not permanently, but at least on a loan. And so to start, I thought was a little weird, but get away with that. Richarlison wasn't even picked in the squad at all, and it apparently wasn't because of an injury. So I don't know what that is to mean. I don't know if it means if he's leaving, but to omit him from the squad for no real reason, I thought was a bit weird. But I think it's just about him sorting out what he thinks. I think he played two different systems. I think he played the 4-2-3-1 and then a 4-3-3. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but that's what it seemed to me. So he was also earmarking different systems he was planning on implementing as well as players as well. But I think it's just using. I think it's just using every player he's got and just seeing what they could provide to him.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you very much, Phillip. On to the game itself and the first half. What did you make of the first half? Do you think it felt like a pre-season game for most of it?
Yeah, it was a bit slow, wasn't it, overall? I think in the first half, Spurs looked quite tidy, in possession. Reading were kind of defending resolutely. We got forward a couple of times. It was a pre-season friendly to me, but I didn't really expect us to go, kind of 2-3 3-0 ahead right at the first half. I think we were kind of just getting back in the flow of things. It was also clear that he was going to play a completely different team in the second half. And to me, Reading looked a bit fitter. I think that was Reading's fourth pre-season game, and that's our first one. I assume, as usual, that the Championship starts a number of weeks earlier than the Premier League, right? I don't know what the date is, but they're probably starting in 2 weeks or something, the Championship already. So, I think Reading were further down the line in terms of match fitness, and I think in the first half, though, that kind of showed a bit that they were used to playing together. We just looked a bit rusty, but I didn't think we were bad in the first half. I think we still were solid enough. Dogie and Devine, actually, Alfie Devine I liked in the first half. He was, taking up those spaces in the number 8 and almost the number 10 role. And, I think that was also showing a bit what Frank wants to do tactically. And that was actually copy and pasted in the second half, but with the other personnel. So I was actually quite happy with the first half. And I was happy to see Kinski start as well, actually. I know I've had a bit of beef with some other Spurs fans about my desire to see Kinski becoming the number 1 sooner rather than later, but I still predict that he will be, because he fits Frank Ball a million times better than Vic. And that's nothing against Vicario, because I love Vicario. I think he's done a really good job for us over the last couple of years, despite being shaky on occasion. But yeah, I was happy with the first half. Obviously, in the second half, we went and made those decisive goals quite quickly. Mainly due to one or two players, but we'll let the others talk about that. But it's fine, absolutely fine. First game of pre-season, isn't it, really?
Indeed. Yeah, it did feel like a pre-season game at times. Gary, can I bring you in on this? I want to talk about something that Phillip mentioned. He talked about the goalkeeping situation. Do you think Kinski is more suited to number one under Thomas Frank? You're on mute, Gary.
I'm on mute. I think it's too soon to tell. I think Vicario still probably will be the number one. As shot stopping, I think slightly better. Unfortunately, distribution isn't his strong point, as we're all aware and worry when the ball goes back to his feet. Kinski is obviously clearly a lot better than that, but maybe in the next couple of friendlies that he changes the mind. But for me, I think Vicario is still probably number one, and Kinski's a very, very good backup though, and I think he could be a very good goalkeeper. But hopefully the new goalkeeping coach can improve them both, and we've got a good test on our hands over the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you. Ian, Phillip also made another interesting point that he thought Reading were fitter of the two sides. What do you make of that? You're also on mute, Ian.
You're on mute.
Ian, I'm afraid we can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Sorry. I put myself on mute as well. And then you say, remember to take yourself off mute. Yeah. Right, what was I saying? Yeah, that was at their third or their fourth pre-season game. So they're bound to be ahead of us on fitness. Absolutely. I mean, if you were following football over the weekend, you might have picked up that Celtic beat Newcastle United 4-0. And Newcastle, that was their first pre-season game. Again, Celtic's fourth. So there is bound to be, even if you allow for a partisan crowd at Celtic Park where they love, getting one over the English, the difference in fitness, I gather, was enormous, and nothing can be written into it. The fact is, we didn't lose the game, we won the game, we didn't concede, etc., etc. So yeah, I think that's good. Can I just make a point about the Kinski Vicario debate? And that is, I agree with everything that's been said. I just wonder if either of them are exactly what we need. I agree about Kinski being much better suited in terms of his footwork and distribution. I mean, he looks like he could be an outfield player quite easily, but his shot stopping worries me, which is not a patch on Vicario's. I mean, in reality, what you want is half of both. You want Kinski's ability to take the ball, his ability with his feet, his ability to distribute the ball, with Vicario's shot stopping.
Yeah.
And it might be we need to find somebody like that. I mean, I remember being on shows and we all thought we'd want to watch, not getting Raya from Brentford and getting Kinski instead. I would bite your hand off now if Freya said, I can't stand Arteta, I want to leave. I would take him in an instant. So, but we will see. It might be as I think it was Gary who said that the goalkeeping coaches will do some work with him and or with them both. I don't think I think that some of the coaching was fairly weak under Ange, and I do hope that Kinski's particularly is very young, that a lot of the stuff that he's weak on can be improved upon, and he does have natural talent in terms of his footwork, his ability to control the ball, his ball handling and stuff like that. So we will see. I'm not saying we rush out and spend £60 million on another goalkeeper this summer, but it's something I think will need to be looked at.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the second half, the starting 11 for the second half was Vicario, Spence, Vuskovic, Van der Ven, Davis, midfielder Basuma, Bergvall and Donnelly, and then Kudus, Lancashire and Son. Lewis, what did you make of the second half?
I feel like we started to get the foothold of the game, started to really control the game a bit more, and start to maybe overpower Reading maybe with our quality, so to speak. I mean, we just had a better grip of the game, and we decided to create a few more chances. Really nullified Reading, and they really didn't pose much of a threat to us at all until about the last 5 minutes when they had a string of corners together. But apart from that, it wasn't really threatening at all. I feel like we played pretty well. I mean, I think players getting used to each other. I think Kudus was quite bright. I think a lot of people said that. I thought as well. He made some bright sparks on the right hand side. I think other players. I think Boval's starting to try and settle in a little bit. I think he looked okay. I think Son. I don't know about Son. I feel like he didn't want to be there. I don't know if that was me. I'm saying that, but it didn't really look that bothered. He didn't really. I know a couple of videos of him holding his back a lot of the time. It seemed like he kept trying to turn with his back. I don't know if he's maybe carrying an injury. I don't know, but I feel like we played all right. I think. The second half. You can't really not talk about Vuskovic, because I think that's the highlighting factor of the second half. I think it was just his performance. He got a goal and assist in about 8-10 minutes, I think, which was pretty. That was pretty interesting to see. I think he's the fact that he's only 1 year older than me, and he's like 6'3", and he just looks like a machine. Is actually quite scary, but he looks quality, doesn't he? And I think all of us could agree that I think we've got a pretty good young centre back on our hands.
I think we absolutely have, which is very exciting and good to see. We'll get onto individuals a little bit that maybe stood out and some that didn't do as well as maybe we'd hoped or thought. So, Lewis, actually, I'll stick with you if you don't mind. How important do you think it is that we've started off pre-season with a win? We've got off to winning ways under Thomas Frank.
I don't think it's that important. It's nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I wish we lost, but I don't think it's incredibly important. I think it's more about getting minutes in the legs, more about just getting Thomas Frank used to his players. I don't think a win, if we lost, it might have looked embarrassing that we've lost to a League One team and just become the Europa League winners, but I don't know. I don't think it's the be all and end all. I don't think pre-season, losses and wins, they don't really much matter. It's just about getting minutes, about trying new things. And Thomas Frank's getting used to his players. But no, it was nice that we did get a win and a clean sheet as well, which was something that I'm not really used to seeing.
No, I take it for granted. It's very nice. It feels good. We haven't been used to that at all, have we? Gary, I want to talk about set pieces, because 2 goals come from set pieces. Stark contrast there. Is it good to see us have success with set pieces? Do you think that's really important, and maybe a way we can get like a leg up on opponents? I'm thinking in particular when you play teams this season in and around you. Do you think it's really important that we utilise set pieces?
I think both areas. I think we looked better. Obviously, scoring both goals really from set pieces was great to see. But I think defensively we looked a little bit better. The odd shaky moment from both keepers, I think, as well in there. But we looked a little bit more organised. I think definitely seemed more organised, which is paramount, really. I like the fact that we've got with Vuskovic coming in, the sheer size of him makes a huge difference, especially in set piece areas where we're relatively a small side. So that helps us. But yeah, any set pieces is paramount. You can look at any team in the world; they're always practicing them. It's a huge part of the game now. So it was nice to see. But it's clear that it's being done in training. It's clear from the warm-ups. I'd seen some stuff where they were doing some things from set pieces in the warm-ups as well. So yeah, it's nice to see. I think that Thomas Frank's clearly a very astute football coach, especially you could see at half-time the information he was providing. If you watch on Spurs play, they zoomed in a lot on what he was doing, and I think that will go a long way with these players, because they're all very, very young. We've got a very young squad.
Absolutely. Ian, Gary mentions there about that we worked on warm-ups about kind of set pieces, kind of corners in particular. That's a real stark contrast from last year, isn't it? Do you think it's good to see?
I think what's interesting is that Frank and Postecoglou are very, very different animals, very, very different coaches. Frank is much more a training ground, hands-on. He's a proper coach. He's a proper coach. Alex Ferguson's the most successful manager of this or any other previous generations. He wasn't a coach. He was a motivator. He was a manager. If you go through the coaches he had, like Walter Smith and the Portuguese guy, Steve McLaren, all top coaches who did that kind of work. Frank is a coach, but he has a team of real top coaches alongside him, you know, whether it's set piece, goalkeeping, defensive, and what have you. So I think there'll be much, much more hands-on. And so obviously he's got a lot of work to do on the training ground to make sure that the players understand his system and the way he wants to play. But I thought the signs on Saturday afternoon were very, very positive. And I was disappointed. I don't know if David Clark's still in the chat. I know he's not one. He's often on diehards. Doesn't always agree. But me living in Scotland and watching Celtic up here, I was over the moon when we got Ange. But it didn't work out. But then again, the other side of that coin is, did he not deserve to start the season having won our first trophy in 17 years and our first European trophy in 40? But then when you think, we don't know how much money's coming in, but we know, in inverted commas, that there's money coming in, whether it's naming rights, whether it's new investors with new shares, or whether it's ENIC loosening purse strings. We don't know, but we do know there's money available. And you think, the board, when they were talking about this in April, May, probably with an idea of what was going to happen, were saying, do we trust Ange Postecoglou if we've got, 300 million to spend, 200 net after outgoings, touch wood? Do we trust Ange Postecoglou to spend that money? Or are we fearful we give him 300 million pounds and the form is disappointing in October, and that international break, whenever that comes, October, November, we're dismissing the manager having spent all that money and there isn't a fresh pot. So that makes total sense. So yeah, look, I'm really positive. I'm really encouraged by what I see. The king is dead. Long live the king, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you. Phillip, do you want to add anything to that? I mean, I was interested to see your facial expressions throughout. I know you've got maybe a slightly different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, start, raking over old coals or whatever, as you say, with Ange and everything else. But, well, Ian kind of started it there slightly. But, yeah, look, I mean, I think probably, as whenever I've been on here before, I was always a bit more anti Ange right in the end, just in terms of development of the team and his coaching around the team, the positioning of the players, the fullbacks just not being in the right place at the right time, like the midfield not moving into the right place at the right time, the wingers not kind of doing the right thing at the right time. So look, I don't want to talk about that too much, but just to briefly go back to that, when we appointed Frank, I wanted Frank, 2 years ago, or whenever it was. Well, when we got Ange, I wanted Frank, and I think I even wanted Frank probably before we got Conte. And by all accounts, we actually did make an approach for him back at that time as well, but there was no doing. And I think the fact is that Frank is an absolute top class coach. As Ian said, like, he's a training ground guy. He understands how he wants his teams to play. He makes sure he's got a good bunch of coaches around him that believe in what he wants to do, but that also, kind of copy and paste what he wants to do at all moments. And he is willing to change things as well. And it seems like the players buy into it. At Brentford, the players have bought into it fully. He didn't have a team that could play progressive attacking football maybe every week at Brentford, but when he came in, he also said that he likes to play offensive attacking football, and he's proved that in the past. When Brentford came up into the Premier League, they were the most attacking team in the division in terms of how they played, and I'm sure that he's going to continue that that approach. But hopefully by also making sure that we're actually defensively solid, and the fact that he's also brought in this, proper coach, a goalkeeping coach, set pieces coach as well, who are both extremely highly rated, is a good sign, and you could see it. I think that I was watching on Reading TV for a fiver, Reading's actually my local club from where I grew up, so I didn't mind giving them a fiver, to be honest, to kind of support them a bit as well, because I think they they need to come up again and kind of get back on a new a new run. But the commentators on Reading TV, I can't remember, I think it was already in the first half, we had a couple of set pieces, a couple of corners that came in, and they said, this looks like Arsenal. That's what the Reading TV said. He said the way that the Spurs players moved in the box when the corner came in, they did some very clear movement. They all went to the front post or something. They said, you know what, that looks like an Arsenal corner.
That's good to hear, in a way, because I hate to say it, but they're good at it.
Well, they're the best team in Europe probably at it, aren't they, in terms of the stats and everything else, and they've punished us. And I just honestly thought under Ange, in the end, I know we got a bit better last season compared to the first season, but we weren't that good. And, I didn't like it when he used to come out and kind of dismiss it in press conferences, saying that it doesn't really matter. I can't remember what he said exactly, but I'm pretty sure he came out in quite a few press conferences and said it's not really that important, or we just, focus on what we do, on playing how we do. So it's all old news now anyways, but long story short, I was delighted when we got Frank, because I'm glad that we finally have a manager who is going to set up our team in training, like every single day and during the games in a certain way, but is willing to change it. And I think that, again, my big respect to Ange, and thank you so much to him, and gratitude for winning us that trophy. Right, he is a legend of the club, and he is a legend. He goes as a legend. But again, in my opinion, the club did absolutely the right thing to move on from him and get Thomas Frank in. And I think, as someone mentioned, they probably started that already in February, January, March time.
I did.
Yeah, exactly. And like they blatantly started that months ago. And look, the reality is we won the cup. That's all that matters. But we could easily have gone out in the quarter. We could have still gone out against Frankfurt. We could have lost that final if Mickey hadn't done that ridiculous goal line, save. Right,
Phil, just from a dreadful goalkeeping error by Vicario, dreadful piece of
exactly. And again, it's all ifs and buts, isn't it? As always. But I believe that if we'd let that goal in, I don't think we would have won that game. And then suddenly Ange probably leaves the club as the worst manager in 30 years, practically. So it's all very thin margins sometimes, right? As it is, we won the cup. It's all good. He goes as a legend. I'm very grateful. We had an enjoyable 2 years overall, or let's say a roller coaster, a roller coaster 2 years. Luckily, I'm not a season ticket holder. I live in Germany. But if I lived in London and I was going to every single home game, on top of that, to every single Premier League game, then I probably would also have had a different opinion on top of that, right? Because I would want to see us actually playing well and not shipping God knows how many goals in the Premier League. But, anyways, long story short, again, thank you very much, Ange. But I've got full understanding why we made this decision, and I've got full confidence that Thomas Frank is going to be a success for us over the next few years. And I don't think he's going to be here for 1 year or 2 years. There's other fans out there saying, he's going to be the same old story under Levy. He's going to be there for 18 months and then he's going to go. I don't believe that. I would put, I'm not a bettor, but I would put some money on, that Frank's going to be here for 3-4 years. I think maybe even 5 years, like Poch. I think he's going to do a Poch stint. I'm quite confident of that.
Okay, thank you. Lewis, I think you've been sitting here bubbling. So I know, again, you hold a different opinion. You a little bit more, kind of, let's say, about Ange. So any final comment before we move on?
No, I mean, I'll sit here and I'll admit that I am excited about Thomas Frank, and I think it was a good appointment. But I'm still, I mean, I think it'll be a good appointment for this club, and I'm fully behind it, and I'm not saying otherwise. But I mean, just to me, it's that what could have been is with Ange is what I see, because that will sit with me for the rest of my life. Is that why couldn't we give him a few months? Generally, why not? I mean, I don't see. I still don't see the harm in it. I mean, I still think now under Thomas Frank we're probably in a better position than we probably would have been if we still had Ange today. I think we probably are in a better position. But I still, deep inside of me, every night when I go to bed, I still feel that Ange could be the manager. I still feel that the players would be 100% behind him. I still feel that. It's all emotion really that's carrying it. But yeah, I still would not have minded seeing just up until December. And if it was an absolute car crash, then fine. And this season kind of will probably be another write-off. But I still feel like Ange Postecoglou in Champions League nights could have been some generational viewing for us as fans and the neutrals. But
Fair enough.
no, I mean, I think this is probably the best case scenario that we got Thomas Frank, because I mean he's a pragmatist and he'll set up the team according to the team that we're facing on the weekend, which is something that Ange would never do. And as much as I'm all Ange, I'll admit that I loved him. I think his tactics probably and the way he set up the team was sometimes a bit questionable. I still think that his passion for the club and how much he embodied Tottenham is something that I don't think you can. I don't think it will come by again. I mean, Thomas Frank's just getting used to the club. I mean, will he ever be as passionate and will he ever be as Tottenham as Ange Postecoglou? No, he won't. But we'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
I don't know about that. He's only been here 2 weeks. Let's give him some time. I think some emotions are still running high about the winning a trophy, and I completely get that. And some senses how Lewis feels. I kind of feel like that with Pochettino, but we have to move on, unfortunately, in everything. I agree with Phil. I don't see us in Ian. Actually, I don't have seen us in any way in a better position this season if we'd have kept Ange. And I was very much when we won. Oh, this is ridiculous. How have we sacked him? But once that you kind of try to let some emotions go, I think better heads prevail and said the way we played for 90% of the time is not right. But look, we're now into the new season, and I think that we should be fully focused on who we have now and looking at a forward. Thomas Frank is clearly as Ian would remember and feel as well, and no disrespect to Lewis, but like a tracksuit manager, like Brian Clough used to always be called. He's a tracksuit manager. That was why he was, he was always talked about for England. They wanted a tracksuit manager, and then he obviously never went. But these are the things that I think that we obviously needed at this football club. Is completely different to what we had last season under Ange. And obviously he's very well respected and liked, and we'll thank him for that. But I think we have to move on as a fan base. We can't keep hashing up. And this is coming from me as a huge Pochettino fan. I would sit here now and we talk about him. Even I have to say to myself, look, we've got to move on. It's not gonna. There's no point in ifs and buts. It's just we have to move on.
I did say we'd be in a better position with Frank than we would be with Ange today. I did say that right at the start. I'm saying it. I'm still saying that Frank is the better choice, but it's just that deep down to me, I would have loved to, because we never know. I would have loved to have seen a couple more, 2 maybe 3 months of Ange, and if it went in the bin, then I'll fully moved on from it. It's just that to me, it's just that I'll never know.
No, and I get that, and I'm very much the same as Pochettino. I didn't think he should have been sacked when he did. He earned enough, but there is always that you might know, but equally you have to look at we can't go and have 3 months of poor results because we're just going to be playing catch up again. But Harry's pointing his finger at me, so I'm going to stop.
It's interesting. No, it's good. Thank you, firstly, all for a really interesting and engaging discussion debate. We have, I'm afraid, got to move on, but I think that's a conversation that we could be having all night, and it's interesting. But at the end of the day, Thomas Frank is our manager now, so let's.
And at the end of the day, nobody's opinions is wrong. It's all of our opinions,
No,
and it's
we'll
what
never
matters
know.
to us. And we'll never know. We'll never know.
No.
You know.
Exactly that. Let's get back to the Reading game itself, because I also do want to get on to transfers. Tell you what, Gary, we'll start with you. Luka Vuskovic, I've got to talk about him. What are your thoughts on his Spurs debut? Because that was impressive.
I mean, it was 7 minutes or 8 minutes, goal, assist, and a clearance off the line. So you couldn't really have written a better debut for him. For me, I knew how big he was, but I didn't realise how big he was, if that makes sense. You know, you can look on FootMob or whatever, Football Manager, and see 6'4", but when you actually look at him around the people around him, I was like, holy, like, you know what, this guy is a beast. He's an animal. He's huge. First couple of minutes, he looked a little bit shaky on the ball, but he really grew in like immediately after that. And he looks a great player. We were talking about set pieces earlier. He clearly is a threat on set pieces, and that's what we need. We need someone like that is going to throw himself in, isn't afraid. You know, was it a flip on? Was it an attempt at goal? Who really cares at the end of the day? Because, you know, Will Lancashire, great movement in the box to score, but just that threat. And then he was a threat again for the next goal kick. And we definitely need that. And I really would like to see him stay. Don't particularly want to see him go out on loan. I think previously we've spoken about that. We're going to have a lot of games this season. We could have 60 plus if we're lucky. And we really need to keep some class in our squad, especially at the back in case of any injuries, and people are going to need rest. For me, he's 18? Am I right? 18, 19? Maybe a little. Yeah. Am I wrong? And playing 15 games a season for next season, if we're lucky, against a World Cup winner and a Copa America winner, that's a fantastic learning experience for him. And I think I would very much like to see him stay, not go out on loan or anything like that.
Okay, cheers, Gary. Ian, I've got to ask you again about Luka Vuskovic as well. So, goal and assist within 7 minutes of his Spurs debut, and a goal, assist, and goal line clearance within 9 minutes of his debut all combined. That's impressive, right?
As I said earlier, on Friday on our show, I said I wanted to see the boy play, because I wanted to see what he could do. If you look at his record, he's scored in something like 61 senior appearances. He scored 11 goals. So, and he's got a number of assists as well. So this, you know, what he did at Reading was no coincidence or no one-off. The other thing is, at 18, he is a full international. I think he has 4 caps. So this boy clearly is an immense talent. Whether he's first team ready or not is another matter. But having seen what I saw in the 45 minutes, I don't think there's any chance whatsoever that this boy goes out anywhere on loan. I think he's already good enough to be in the Champions League squad. I think he can play some league games, certainly things like League Cup games, Carabao Cup games, and things like that. I think alongside, let's assume Romero stays and Danso seems to have a level head. Mickey van der Ven mature beyond his years. I think he'll learn far more and the defensive coach as well, playing alongside. Yeah, let's be honest, Van der Ven and Romero are world-class players at any level. So I think he'll learn more from training and playing alongside them than he will going off to some loan deal. So I genuinely hope, I think Phillips will probably go out on loan. We've got to see what's going to happen with Dragusin. And there's a lot of links with the Bournemouth boy as well. And there's some links with Gui as well, although I think he's Liverpool bound, which perhaps suggests that Romero may leave. But I just think we have absolutely found an absolute gem. I mean, there's a 16-year-old. We spent £12 million on a 16-year-old. So someone was talking, and that's absolutely the kind of scouting that we want. So yeah, and remember the goal he scored as well. Was with his left foot, was with his weaker foot, with his power and accuracy. He's this is a serious talent we've got, and I don't, sometimes you just see it instantly. And this boy's got it in spades. Phil, you've got no light, by the way.
Yeah, Phillip is absolutely the dark. I'm going to go to him for the next question, and it again is on the subject of Vuskovic. I mean, it was a Harry Kane like finish, wasn't it? I mean, Phillip, it was just really impressive. Are we sure he's a centre back, or is he a secret centre forward?
Vuskovic is utter class. I've actually got a family connection to Croatia. And we go to, I've gone to Croatia every year for the last 10 years. Got really good connections in the top couple of clubs there through friends there. Dinamo Zagreb, Hajduk Split, and HNK Rijeka. And I remember probably 4 or 5 years ago, so Vuskovic would have been 13 or 14. And I've got a very good mate of mine who lives in Croatia, and he's one of the leading fan club guys, right, for Rijeka Football Club, who actually won the league. In fact, they won the cup double in Croatia this season, kind of unexpectedly. But he was talking about Vuskovic about 4 or 5 years ago. So literally when he was 13, saying that this guy already had been earmarked as a generational talent when he was like 13. And when we signed him two years ago, I think kind of 3 years before that.
2 years.
Yeah, he'd already scored, and I think he scored in the UEFA Youth League like 2 weeks after his debut. So he was the youngest ever UEFA youth debutant, and also the youngest ever scorer as a centre back. And I remember back then in that summer, everyone was talking about him in Croatia, saying he is like the next kind of. I don't want to talk about him, with Modric kind of together, right, in terms of that level, because that's obviously kind of a bit crazy right now. But locally, they've spoken about him being potentially at that kind of level. So the fact that we actually went out and got him 2 years ago and have kind of loaned him out, to be honest, so well, the places that we've loaned him in Belgium, right? We've done a really, really good job on that, on bringing him on board.
He couldn't come to the UK. He couldn't come to the UK because he was under 18 and we're no longer an EU country. So he had to be loaned out within the EU, which we did. I think we did really well. Good clubs, good levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I think honestly, the club and the people who've been involved in that deserve a bit of kudos, a bit of a pat on the back, like with how we've dealt with him, and look, he's 6'4". He's obviously massive, as Gary said. Like, he's imposing. He wins every header. I mean, his goals speak for himself. He's been playing in the Belgian Premier League, which isn't the strongest league in the world, but it's also not the weakest.
Absolutely.
And he's scored and assisted so many goals there. If he played for our first team this season, even if it was just a couple of games here and there, he would offer so much danger from set pieces and crosses, right? Like at the end of games or whenever, even if he would come on as a sub, just from an attacking perspective. The one thing I remember, some of the other, I don't know, there's a couple of other Spurs podcasts out there that have been around for many, many years, right? Some of the fame, I think it's the Extra Inch. Is it one of those ones as an example, where there's a guy on there who does a lot of kind of analysis, right, on players, and youth players as an example, and he always called out Vuskovic for being slow, like for having no pace, which was quite strange in some ways because the Croatians locally always said he was extremely fast. He would beat a lot of players one-on-one, and he's probably not he's not Van der Ven levels of pace, but he's extremely fast and he's fast enough. And I think that we cannot afford to loan him out now. There may have been a plan to do that, like before. Obviously, we kind of got our eyes on him because he hasn't been there, has he? He's not been at Spurs Lodge, really. He's not spent more than a couple of days at Spurs Lodge in his career so far. So we have to integrate him. I don't think there's any benefit in loaning him out again now because, if it would be within in the Championship or somewhere, yeah, he'd obviously get a good run out, physicality and all that. But he's good enough to play games for us now. And with Danzo there as well, whatever happens with Romero, like, who knows? Maybe he does still go in the end, but that shouldn't really impact whether Vuskovic stays or goes on loan. He needs to come into that squad. He needs to get game time with all the games in the Champions League and the FA Cup, in the League Cup, in the league. He can get some games in there. There's absolutely nothing to lose. And I think it's also clear that he's ahead of an Ashley Phillips, obviously now, anyways, who hasn't really seemed to kick on somehow. And Dorrington obviously has got a really nice move actually back to Aberdeen, right? He can play in the UEFA Cup because he won the cup, didn't he, in Scotland?
Yeah.
And I still think that Dorrington, by the way, has a lot of talent. But again, whether it's good enough for Premier League on duration, I don't know. Maybe he'll end up being a good Championship player. But Vuskovic really is a generational talent. People have been called out on Twitter for saying that. I know that, but I've said to people the last 3 years, whenever we've talked about Vuskovic, I've said, guys, like, we need to be really excited about this guy because he is a generational talent. He's not like the Vélez that we bought from Argentina, where some people said, oh, he's going to be like some kind of Batistuta or something, like kind of guessing about him and stuff like that. Like, Vuskovic is absolute world class. We need to make sure that he has his route. We need to give him the game time. And if we do it properly, and actually under Thomas Frank, I think that we will. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a run of games this season. Honestly, he could end up. I think he could end up starting games this season. But as I said, let's hope that we do keep him because you never know, do you? Maybe like West Brom or something come in, right, with Ryan Mason and say, we'd like to loan him or something. And I don't know, maybe they believe that it would be good for him. I don't know. We can't really comment on that, but we need to. We should keep him. He's generational. That's all I'm saying. He is generational.
Thank you, Philip. Lewis, on Kudus, what were your thoughts on his debut?
He was all right. He was he was pretty good. I mean, I think we might have a lot of people come out and said he was incredible, whatever. I think it was a good performance, a strong performance. He had some nice link-up play with Jed Spence or maybe Destiny Adohi, I don't know. Quality joke that is. No, he was good. He had some good moments. He was looking bright. He looked like he wanted to have the ball. He looked like he wanted to make something happen. He looked like he wanted to impress, which is something you want to see. I mean, he was on corners actually. I'm pretty sure he was on corners, and the 2 corners he scored, I think, came from him. I mean, he took the corner, didn't get the assist, either assist, but he took the corner, which was nice. So Thomas Frank's already got a view for how. I mean, maybe because there's a lack of set piece taker on the pitch, or he was already got the mind that Kudus would be on set pieces. I don't know, but I mean, that was interesting to see that he was on the corner and only been in the squad for a week or like less than. So about that before coming to that Reading game. So it was interesting that he was on the corners. But no, I think the whole fan base wanted to see him start, wanted to see him get minutes right from the off. So it was maybe 45 minutes of where's Kudus, but when he did come on, I feel like he was pretty good. He had some good bright moments. He wanted to have the ball. He wanted to impress. Some nice link-up play with Jed Spence. Nice link-up play with, I think, Solanke as well. Shame he couldn't. I don't think he got a goal or assist, but shame he couldn't get on.
Got the second goal assist, didn't he? Yeah, set up Vuskovic as well.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, thank you very much. I forgot about that. He did get an assist, so that's good. But no, I think maybe against Luton, maybe he starts. I don't know, but I think we should be excited about him, and I think we want to see him get as much minutes as possible.
Yeah,
I thought there was a big stark difference between him and Johnson. Johnson was wide, but didn't really impact the game an awful lot. He whereas Kudus was dropping in the hole. So in the number 10, he was moving. He was coming back into play. You saw from the halfway line, he sort of took on half the team at one point. And there was quite a large difference between him and Johnson, which I thought was is a huge difference. Just the way he played, I thought was a stark difference in with Johnson. I'm not sure where Thomas Frank might go with that. I think I said before that Johnson could potentially move out on the left, but Kudus for me was a lot more dynamic in the way he played in comparison to the first half. I thought he was very, very good, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you think he'll improve us in transitions, Gary?
Yeah, massively. From corners, the pace of him, close control, movement on and off the ball. Like I say, moved inside quite a lot. Which was different to what we was having in the first half, which I think was helping because then we could get the overlap as well, and then he was trying to create. Crossing of the ball, we looked a lot more. He looked more interested in doing that as opposed to Johnson. Corners, he was straight on corners. Both goals came from his corners, so instantly an impact for me. I liked that on the halfway line where I can't remember who he was with, but he'd gone past about 3 or 4 players, and the acceleration of him was dangerous. And if you look at how Brentford played last year with Brian Bremer on the right, and maybe Vista or whoever, their counter attack was so quick and dynamic, and we saw that pretty early on with Kudus. And I think that he's tried to look at what was working for him at Brentford and gone, actually, I think we can get this with Kudus. Equally with the chat just there with Bentancur, I thought Bentancur was excellent as well.
Okay, thank you. Ian, anyone else you were impressed with in that Reading game?
The Kudus thing was really important. I think it's one of the things, and in fact, it's one of the things I expected to see under Ange, and I didn't see it. Fast, direct wing play. I think a couple of things. One, we maybe talk about potential transfers, but one of the things that really intrigued me is when you look at Kudus, who's an absolute natural down that right-hand side. And one of the reasons he struggled at West Ham wasn't that he wasn't good enough, is that that was their club captain, Mark Noble's position. So that I think created a difficulty for him in any event. Plus, I don't think he got on that well with Potter. So, but I think he's a mega find. I think he's still another young player with years of development to go. That run down the wing, I think the ball was out. I think it was a Premier League game. The VAR would have come to Brentford's Reading's rescue if it had gone in the net. But no, I think he's superb. The other question that brings then is if you're looking at that, and if you're looking at, say, Kudus right, Morgan Gibbs White left, and, well, I think the dream is Xavi Simons, but, you know, whether it's Taylor, Odegaard, Simmons, Solomon, we've got players there. I'm leaving Son out of this for the time being. Then you've got real dynamism and real pace and real power, which is, you know, typical of the way a Thomas Frank side will set up. And that's the sort of setup and players that will frighten defenders senseless. That kind of player, those kind of players with skill and pace running at you. But the question there is, where do Johnson and Kulusevski fit in to that system? Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they do if he plays 4-2-3-1.
Don't forget he wanted to sign Johnson at Brentford. So do you think he'll get a place in that starting 11? Maybe as a wide forward, inside forward. It's hard. I think he does.
He doesn't have what Kudus has, does he? In terms of pace,
No.
the ability to take on a defender. I mean, Johnson. I mean, his record, his goals and assists are superb, but he's disappointed in that lack of ability to go past a player, the lack of confidence to go past a player.
Yeah, he's not on the level of Kudus in terms of going past, dropping a shoulder, going past the play. He doesn't seem to do that consistently enough.
No.
The thing you do notice with him is in the box at the right time, and it's a difficult one, but it's a great problem to have.
Yeah,
because
I mean, Andrew
the amount of games we have,
put that up.
You need that players, yeah.
Sorry, Johnson outside and Kulu in the middle. Well, if you're telling me then you're not playing Gibbs White, who we are going to sign, I'm sure. If you're saying to me we're going to leave Maddison out and play Kulu there, if you're saying to me we're going to play Johnson instead of Kudus, I've got problems with that, and that's really the point I'm making.
But I see Kudus as like what Mbeumo was at Brentford in terms of what Thomas Frank got out of him. I think that's something really exciting because Mbeumo, even to this day, just can't be hacked by opposition players. We know that Mbeumo is Brentford's danger man, but they can't deal with him. So I find that really positive. And you've got to remember, like, what really excites me as well when thinking about Solanke or whoever the striker may be for Spurs, even it'd be Richarlison, how much you got out of Wissa. We just all sit here going, Wissa's a striker. Well, actually, no, he's a wide forward that Thomas Frank made become a striker when they lost Ivan Toney. But Frank's very good at getting a lot out of attacking players. I think Johnson will have a big role under Thomas Frank. It's not going to be, is it, likely to be the same that he was like, and she's not going to probably be that that post kind of tapping merchant.
And the most important thing, Harry, is I haven't heard a whisper, and I've got a couple of people tipping me winks on various things. I haven't heard a single whisper that Johnson and Kulusevski don't fit into Thomas Frank's plans this season. None at all. Not a whisper that either of them won't be involved.
But there's so many games and so many potential games that you need a squad that can do it. I know we always like to talk about that 11, but we do need to have people that can come off the bench that can impact games and get us through amount. Johnson, I say left or right. I would personally, with Morgan Gibbs White, I'd have him deeper. I just think that on the ball he's so very good in the middle, and I think the power through the middle could work really well alongside a Bentancur or a Sarr or a Bergvall. Then you've got a Maddison or Kulusevski in a 10, and then you've got your left and right wingers with Solanke. But I think having a good depth of squad with quality and Premier League quality is really going to help us this season, especially under a manager that is so tactically aware of what's going on around him.
Yeah,
I think we've also got to accept we're going to make a lot of rotation this year, and a lot of people, and I don't think it's just Spurs fans, football fans in general, look at it and go, oh, he's been dropped. Or like Maddison's a common one. Oh, has he fallen out with Ange? No, I just think you've got to look at it. Frank talks about his number one priority being to compete in all 4 competitions. You can't do that with the same start 11 week in, week out, twice a week. We're going to have to make rotation. That's the thing with number 10. We'll get on to Gibbs White later, but hopefully you bring him in. There's nothing wrong with having Gibbs White who can play there, Maddison who can play there, Kulu who can step in and do a job there, Bergvall who can step in and do a job there, Kulusevski is more than capable of playing there and out on the right. There's nothing wrong with that. Of course, you can have too much depth, but I don't think that is too much. And we need that heavy rotation. That's why I look at Solanke and Richarlison and go, can we get better than Richarlison? Can we have a second striker that's really pushing Solanke to the next levels? But before we get on to transfer stuff, because there's a lot to get into, Phillip, is there anyone you were disappointed with in the Reading game? You know me, I hate to look into negative, but is anyone you thought, oh, okay, I'm not happy with them? Son's the one that's come up quite a lot in the last kind of couple of days.
Yeah, Son, really. For me, the standout disappointment from the game. I mean, I guess he only played one half, didn't he? He came in at half time, but he looked slow. He lost the ball a couple of times in 50-50s. He lost control a couple of times. He did a couple of little forays down the left, didn't really get anywhere, kind of came back. I thought he just looked sluggish. But I mean, we've talked about him. I mean, I still think that he's going to get sold. And if he doesn't, then I do kind of wonder a bit what his role in the squad and the team is, despite us just saying now that we're going to do a lot of rotation. I honestly don't know if Son's good enough to, like, maybe in some games to kind of really put the minutes in, you know, like he doesn't really score the Sonny goals anymore, you know, where he obviously just get the ball outside the box, right, and curl it into the top corner, which he so often did. He doesn't really do that often anymore. And does he really kind of go on those like little runs on the break where he's going to kind of accelerate away from players? I don't know. When we've got Odobert and, you know, Tell, Mikey Moore, Johnson, who, you know, I think Gary mentioned, you know, can kind of play anywhere, actually. And I think under Thomas Frank, I think Johnson's actually got as good a chance as anyone else to maybe play on the left. Or maybe even play some games up front, right? Or come on in some games as a striker. You know, or even play that Morgan Gibbs White role, you know, once he comes. You know, kind of halfway between. Like, I think Johnson can play lots of different roles, and if he comes off the bench, he can have an impact because he does stand in the right place at the right time. But, you know, you have still got Kulusevski as well. You got all those other players that can play on the left. So, look, Son was disappointing. Let's see what happens with him. Was anyone else particularly disappointing? Bissouma, I thought, didn't really do anything that great. I think he gave the ball away a couple. Yeah, he went on a couple of mazy runs like he always does, but he gave the ball away a couple of times quite poorly. I assume that Bissouma's leaving anyway. I'd be very surprised if he stays. I think he wants to stay, but you know, I'd be surprised if he's still here at the end of the window. But I wasn't that impressed by him. Was anyone else bad per se? I don't think so, really. I think everyone else put a good shift in. Spence did all right when he came on. Davies, not really going to comment on him because I don't think he's the future of the club anyways, you know. Thought everyone else did all right. Again, it's the first game of pre-season, so I don't think there's so much you can say. I think Luton will be interesting on Saturday, and obviously the games after that as well, because the players will be getting a bit back to fitness. But I think it was just very much a bit of a run out, and it was insightful, the players that did have an impact, you know, that really made a mini impact in that game. So Sonny for me was really the negative, and I, as I said, you know, I think that I think that he's going to go.
I think Sonny played like he knows he's going to go. He looked, you know, semi-interested. I gather with any of these overseas tours, there is a key man or key person clause in it that says that the money is conditional upon certain people being there. And I imagine they've got a sub-clause on an injury that if the player can't walk, he can't travel. But beyond that, you have to take Son to Southeast Asia, because that's you know, the sponsors, the people that are paying for that. That's what they're paying for, and that's what you know, they're getting. That's you know, where they're getting their value for money from. But I would expect that when we come back, I mean, I know that the club is actively trying to remove a couple of players from the club. Son, Richarlison and Bissouma, I think, are three. And it's actually holding up some incomings as well. But I expect Son will want to go, and if we can get half decent money for him. Richarlison is something of a bigger problem because he doesn't want to go. But I think in a World Cup year, if Frank makes clear, you'll have very little game time. And you may not even be in my 25-man Premier League squad, which is a distinct possibility. That might encourage him to go. You want to have a look at Solomon, but I think Solomon will probably go as well. And if you're looking at that, you don't think? Well, I think we've got so many players. I mean, my understanding is that they would like to get rid of Son and Richarlison and bring in Xavi Simons. That is the dream that they're looking at. I know he's been linked with Chelsea tonight, but as I say, I'm sceptical. Don't believe everything you read on Twitter. And I mean, I don't know how many wingers Chelsea need, but I think that's where they're trying to get to. But with Bissouma, Richarlison, Son, and Bissouma, you're looking at the thick end. You're trying to get in 100 million and then spend 300. That's what I gather the intention is. But at the moment, we've got 4, players worth approximately 100 million pounds that we have to ship out, and we're not able to do that at the moment.
We're bloated. We're bloated, though, aren't we? I think that's the problem. As you say, they're there at the moment, and we'd like to obviously move them on, but until we do, and until there's enough concrete interest in them to make sure that we can move them on, there's probably a bit of kind of uncertainty about, well, how do we do it? Because Richarlison,
Well, if we can't move the players out, first of all, there isn't a squad place for any incomings.
Exactly.
And secondly, there's not the money for it. So that's the first thing. In terms of being bloated, I think when you looked at it, where there was 22 players that played, there were 3 that didn't play, and there was 5 or 6 that realistically might have played. That's excluding extra goalkeepers. If they'd all been fit, Taylor, Bear, Kulusevski, Dragusin, Maddison. That's 5. There might have been another couple as well. Gray, that's 6. So, there does come a point, 33 with the goalkeepers, 35 players. You just can't accommodate them all. Some will go on loan. Maybe Devine, Donnelly, Phillips will go on loan. But we are going to need to ship 3 or 4 out of the door. From that, if you ship 7 out and bring in 2 or 3, I think we've done pretty well and increased the quality. But of course, the important thing about that is, and we keep saying it's a squad game. We need a big squad to play a lot of games in Champions League, the League, Premier League, and we would hope to get runs in both the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. You are going to need a proper squad to do that, rather than playing reserves and saying, well, they weren't up to it. You're going to want the players like the Vuskovics to come in and say, there's been no deterioration in the quality of the team. If you're playing Vuskovic and Danso as opposed to Romero and Van der Beek, that's the kind of squad quality you need, with 2 really good players for every position in the team, and maybe a couple of players as well. That's where you need to get to if you're going to challenge for trophies.
Okay, thank you. We're going to get on to transfers in more depth very shortly with all the latest transfer news and giving all your opinions as well. But I've got one more question on the Reading game, because there were 4 players that didn't get on the pitch at all. They were Ashley Phillips, Yamin Hook, Brandon Austin, and also Abbott. Gary, do you read into that too much? Of course, there's going to be players that are going to miss out and not get on the pitch. What do you think of those 4 that didn't get on the pitch?
I just think it's quite a normal thing with a bloated squad. Not everybody's going to be able to play. I think it's probably telling that those might be the ones that are looking more at the exit door than the playing regular first team football. I think Ashley Phillips is probably likely to leave. I wouldn't mind have seen him play, if I'm honest, but I think the others, it's probably might be on the way out, loans, etc. As we say, we've got quite a bloated squad, and I think the outgoings now are starting to hold up money as well as places.
I agree with that. Gary, I'll stay with you if you don't mind. Moving on to transfers. Josh Keeley has left the club. So firstly, a bit of info for people who don't know about it. He doesn't count as homegrown. He was signed for just 100k, so a profit has been made on him. What are your thoughts overall in this deal? Do you understand it? Are you annoyed about it?
I would like. Do we have a buyback clause?
Yes.
Yes,
we do.
Then I'm.
If it's a sell-on clause, I don't know if it's a sell-on clause, but not buyback clause.
We've got a buyback and a sell-on clause, and that's come from Callum last night. From my memory, we have either a 45% sell-on clause, or we have a buyback clause. I think it's either 5 or 6 million to be exercised after 2 years. So
then it's a good deal.
Covered the bases on that.
It's a good deal for him. He's regular football. He's going to probably play every week. He's a good goalkeeper. He's not going to get into the first team at the moment. So it's a good deal. We get a little bit of money in the door. It's not a huge sum of money, but equally, if he does accelerate his potential, we can bring him back and he could be someone for a longer term. But those type of deals I'm quite comfortable with as long as we retain a buyback if they do. Is that we don't have the greatest records of developing young players, so if they are being well developed elsewhere and we can bring them back, I think that's paramount.
It's very hard with this to know whether it's a good deal or not, because, not being funny, but we don't know whether there's a buyback clause or sell-on clause. This is just reported. We don't know this. You can only assume. So, and what we've heard and people around us and people that we individually believe. So it's hard for us to really say, if it's a good deal or not. Only both clubs will deep down know that. Lewis, can I come to you? Do you think it made sense to sell him? The fact that maybe we couldn't give him the game time, that he needed or deserved. Would that be fair to say?
I mean, yeah, no, I feel like he could have left. I feel like definitely leaving or not being part of the squad this season made sense. I don't know if to sell him was 100% necessary, but I mean, if you have the buyback clause, then there's not really much of an issue, or at least a good sell-on clause, not that big of an issue. But I mean, when you have Vicario, Kinski, and Austin, who are all probably ahead of him now, then yeah, I understand he's not going to get game time. He's not going to get any game time realistically within the next year, maybe two. So that makes sense to loan him out. I mean, Luton, I feel like he could have gone to a championship club, in all honesty. I mean, obviously, I don't know the situation of every championship club. I don't know if any of them are crying out for a goalkeeper that we could have loaned him out to. Because I still think he was probably. I mean, I don't really watch League One that much, but from what it seemed like, he was very good for Leyton Orient, and many of their fans would probably say that he deserves to step up, maybe to the championship, coming from Leyton Orient fans. So maybe he could have gone up a league, maybe could have had some time in the championship, but you never know. Luton could get promoted this season. They would probably be tipped to be a team facing promotion, so they could probably hopefully get championship football next season. And I feel like it made sense for him to leave because he's not going to get any game time at Spurs for the next few years. But I feel like he's a good young goalkeeper, and he was very highly rated at Leyton Orient. So I'm happy for the move, and I hope he plays every week because he deserves it. And I would like to see him back at Spurs in a few years, if maybe as a second choice to Kinski. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know the goalkeeper situation going forward, but he was definitely not going to get minutes this season.
Okay, thank you. Philip, do you have anything to add to that about Josh Keeley? I mean, Ian just put in the chat there, 6 goalkeepers we have at the club. I mean, that is quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, I like Keeley. I think he's got a lot of talent, and I really liked him at Orient. I'd like to see him back at the club in the future, because I think he's generally got the talent to get actually up to the Premier League. But, as Ian said, we've got so many keepers at the moment. There's no point having him as part of the squad and probably even loaning him out. So if we've got that buyback clause or the sell-on, doesn't really matter. I think he's Spurs kind of through and through, right, as a kid as well. So he's always going to have that history for us. I've got absolutely no issues with selling him on. I think Luton's a good place for him.
Yeah.
And
Phil, just to add to that as well, I gather Gunter is very, very highly rated. So there comes a part with one goalkeeper. Yeah, you can rotate a couple, but with the best will in the world, you can't rotate 6. So something had to give.
Yeah, and we've still got Austin as well, right? So nothing much is going to change it. I think it's a good decision for the player and for us to move him on, because at least he's going to get probably a full season of playing everywhere at Luton. I think it's a good chance for him. So I'm absolutely fine with that. And Austin is still there. We've got Gunter. I mentioned it earlier, but I strongly believe that Kinski will come through to be the number one sooner than a lot of people might think. The only thing, I don't really want to talk about Kinski in that much more detail, but the caveat I would say about Kinski, because I think a lot of people have kind of said that his shot stopping is kind of his weakness. I would agree on that a bit, but I would also caveat by saying, when he joined Spurs, he was thrust straight into, what was it, Liverpool, his first game? And he was thrust into a back four, which was very much under strength, and we were shipping goals, and he was getting a lot of pressure, a lot of corners, a lot of shots peppered at him, right? From everywhere. Like, Vicario is probably a better shot stopper. And to be fair, there's probably not that many keepers actually who are a better shot stopper than Vicario. I think when we signed Vicario, like there was loads of, Twitter reels going around of those double or triple saves that he made in Italy. Like, honestly, Vicario is an absolute legend when it comes to like just saving one-off shots. But, his weaknesses are obviously clear elsewhere. So, I'm interested to see what happens with the goalkeeping situation, over the next 2 years. But as I said, Keeley, good lad, great talent, but it's the best decision for all parties, I think.
Okay. I totally agree with Ian. I wish we could have 50-50 of both. We could have Vicario shot stopping, Kinski's distribution, confidence on the ball that really suits the Frank system. But where I will agree, I think you mentioned it in particular yourself, Phillip. I think Kinski maybe suits that Frank system just a little bit more, having seen previous goalkeepers, Raya, but also Flecken as well. They just seem to be a little bit more comfortable with their feet than maybe Vicario is. But time will tell what will happen. I don't think it's going to be like he's number one from the start. I think it'll be hopefully, anyway, even playing field. As if a lot of players at the start, he goes into it with an open mind. But moving on to Alfie Dorrington, because he's left on loan, joining Aberdeen again on loan for the 25-26 season. Lewis, does this seem like another sensible move? He got on well their last campaign. They liked him. They wanted him back. It makes sense, doesn't it, for all parties, really?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it does make sense. I mean, I feel like we have an issue that we've got a lot of centre-backs at the club right now. I mean, as a whole. I mean, maybe not like you'd say world-class centre-backs, but we've got a lot on our books. I mean, because if you're looking at it now, I mean, I can't really see Ben Davis if he's getting minutes next season as a fullback. I don't know if he's got the legs for it. I mean, so if you're looking at it right now, I mean, you've got Romero, Van der Ven, Danso, Vuskovic, Dragusin, Ben Davis. I think I mentioned Danso. I can't even remember anymore. But I mean, and we've got as a whole club. I think there was a stat out there. I think I said it on last show that we have 46 at the club as a whole. I don't know if that's true yet to be, but I think a lot of it's circulating around. If it is to be true, that tells you. But I mean, I think with people, when I mention Dorrington and when I mention Ashley Phillips, I doubt that they will break through into this team now. I think that the ceiling is getting higher, and I think they're not getting minutes. They're not getting enough exposure to the first team anymore. They're getting constant loans, and I think it's going to come to a point where we'll just cut our losses, and within 3 years, he's just going to be sold. And it wouldn't surprise me. I think the loan makes sense because I think he's too good to be in the Spurs under 21s. I think that's not the level he should be at. But is he good enough to be in the Spurs squad at current? Probably not. And that's just that. And that's just the sad reality of it. I mean, going to Aberdeen when I think they won the Scottish Cup last season, I think as was mentioned. Yeah. So he's going to get European football, a taste of European football. Hopefully, if he gets minutes, that could hopefully run along his development a bit more. But I mean, I can't really see him breaking through now because I think I mean, Vuskovic is like 2 years younger maybe than him, a year younger than him maybe. And I think we could would all sit here and say that Vuskovic is much better suited right now to be in the first team for Spurs. He deserves more minutes. And that's the case. And Vuskovic is younger than both Ashley Phillips and Dorrington. And we also got, I forgot to mention Koto Takai. We've also signed him as well.
Of course. Yeah, we all forgot.
5 minutes. I mean, we've all forgotten him as well. I don't know what the situation with him is. I don't know if he's going to get loaned out. But this is the amount of centre-backs we've got. And this is the issue. Will he be getting minutes against Luton this Saturday? I mean, we obviously yet to find out.
I mean,
but,
there was talk we were selling Phillips to Sheffield United for £6 million. I mean, I suspect if that's the kind of money on offer, I've got a feeling we might take it because I don't see Phillips or Dorrington getting in ahead at the moment with the players that are there. Romero, Van der Ven, Vuskovic, Danso, Dragusin, and even Davis.
I think it's a real shame though, because watching Phillips on loan, in particular, he's spelled Plymouth Argyle. Dorrington, I thought done okay, had done well, in fact, at Aberdeen. I just think it's a shame. So I don't think there's anything wrong with them. We don't know whether they're ready for the Premier League, whether they're ready to be in this Tottenham team. It's just, and I suppose it's a good thing as well, blessing in disguise, if you like, that we've also got very good centre-back coverage. We've got to make sure we go into the season with enough. We've got to account for an injury crisis. We've got to account for playing 2 games a week, something we didn't do last season. We failed to do in the past. We've got a lot of centre-backs here, so hopefully Frank in pre-season, work out who he wants, who he doesn't want. But no disrespect to Davis, a great servant, in my opinion, should stay around at the club because we lack experience, dramatically and drastically in that dressing room. So we do need him in and around. But from a footballing point of view, I personally would much rather Phillips and Dorrington in front. If I had to be totally honest with you, I'd rather take a punt with them than with Davis, who I simply don't think has got the legs anymore. But I think Davis is more likely to be ahead of them. I would agree with you on that one. Ian, we spoke about Dorrington a little bit there. Have you got anything else to say about his loan move?
No.
I know you spoke about in the past.
I just think he's one of those. Who's it who said that the bar's got higher? Who's it who said the bar's got higher?
I said the ceiling got higher.
The ceiling's got higher, and I think that's right. And I think that's what we want as fans, that the ceiling to play for Tottenham Hotspur at any level in the competition gets higher and higher. And I personally don't think Dorrington or Phillips, much as they were, decent signing, the Japanese boy Vuskovic, I think have got much higher ceilings. And I don't expect either of them to play first team football for Tottenham, either of them.
Okay. Fair enough. There you go. Ball shot there. But I think you're right. That's what's, I think, sad in a way. But it's right that we're raising that bar, and that is a good thing. So positive things out of something that is a little bit maybe frustrating at the same time. But I want to move on to Morgan Gibbs-White, because I think this might be take a little bit of time and discussion. So firstly, the latest news on him. Rob Dorset via Sky Sports News today reported that Nottingham Forest bosses have shut down all lines of communication with Tottenham Hotspur over the Morgan Gibbs-White issue. And also plenty of sources, including John Percy from the Daily Telegraph and the Sunday Telegraph, has reported that Morgan Gibbs-White has not travelled with the Nottingham Forest. I repeat, has not, to Portugal today. This is due, however, to a private and personal matter completely unrelated to football and his proposed move to Spurs. He's actually expected to join up with the team later this week and travel on his own. So that is the latest we've got. I'm talking in the last kind of 10, 12 hours on Morgan Gibbs-White, a saga that is ever evolving, ever moving, but at the same time, standing still, which was really weird to say in the same sentence. Gary, can I kick it off with you? What are your thoughts on the saga and where we stand at the moment? Do you think we're going to get it done? I mean, it's never ending.
I'd like to think so. I thought we probably would have had it over the line today, given that after the weekend, maybe that was a last hurrah for him. And it's given Nottingham Forest a little bit more time to find a replacement. I know they've been linked with a number of players. James McAtee from Man City this morning. So I think that maybe they're just allowing some time to get a player in. Obviously, they've lost a number of top players already. And then losing arguably their best player is a massive blow for them. But I think that's what they're just trying to save some face. All reports seem to be that that is Tottenham's main target, and it's all full steam ahead, and nothing's changed. Just before we came on, Romano was reporting that there was no change from our side, that we were still trying to sign him. But that if we've activated a release clause, then we should be pushing a little bit here. So there might be some stuff that we're not aware of. But I do hope that we get it over the line by the middle of we're nearly at the middle of the week. Well, we're only Monday, so we've got middle of the week, 2 days. So I'd hopefully like for us to be in a position leading up to next game with him in the squad. So yeah, I definitely think keep pushing at it. However, if it's going to continue to delay other areas of improvement, we may need to move on. But like we said, everything's rumours, and we don't know for sure what's going on, because I guarantee it's none of us last week or 10 days ago thought that Morgan Gibbs-White was going to be a Tottenham player, and then all of a sudden a £60 million release clause is active. So who knows what's happening at the minute.
No, exactly that. For you, should we move on now, focus on another target and stop standing still, or should we be patient and wait? Because there's absolutely no shadow of doubt about it that it is affecting us, and we've stood still since. Should we move on now?
Who was that addressed to? Because you just
sorry, Philip. Sorry, my bad, Philip.
Good question. I mean, I assume that we're working on other options in the background. the whole time. I know everyone's frustrated because there's no news coming out. There's no movement. So I, I'm sure we're working on some replacements, but I think it's a difficult situation because we talked again about the 4 or 5 players that we still need to move on. And it seems like there is ambiguity and like a bit of, you know, this limbo, right, with this Morgan Gibbs White deal. Like, I can't remember a similar case in the last couple of years where seemingly literally no one has any idea actually what's going on. Like, does anyone actually know what what the real status is with this thing? Because like supposedly we hit the release clause and everyone reported it, and then suddenly we did something wrong, and then they were going to report us to the Premier League, and they haven't. And like nothing's really happening. Like and no single journo out there has kind of really shed any kind of light on what the actual situation is in terms of the fact, well, you know, have we hit the clause, but it's like under review from a legal perspective. You know, are they able to shut us down if we've just hit the clause? You know, are they now shipping them off to other teams? Because, you know, Man City have been linked today. Supposedly he's been offered to Newcastle today. But again, is that just media? I don't know. I think that my feeling is that we'll still make it. I think we'll still sign him. But obviously, as every day goes past and we start to go on kind of tours and stuff, you know, I guess the chances feel a bit slimmer, especially because we just don't know what we need to do to make the deal happen. You know, I think that's the thing. I'm sure we've got backups kind of in play, but I also think that Morgan Gibbs White is probably the player that we've identified, and Frank has also identified, who really fits that role to a T. You know, I think you saw in the game against Reading in the first half when Alfie Devine was getting those. He was almost playing as a false nine. You know, he was kind of almost partnering up with Solanke coming into those spaces. I know Gary said that Morgan Gibbs White. I think you said you'd like to see him play deeper. You know, in the system, and I actually agree with you. I think that he'd be a really good player playing a bit deeper. But I think that Frank maybe sees him as kind of, you know, getting into those little pockets between attacking midfield and striker where Devine was yesterday. And I think we've really identified him as a number 1 target. So Xavi Simons, is he a Morgan Gibbs White replacement or is he more of a winger? I don't know. I don't know, Harry. Like, I honestly don't really know what's going to happen with this one, because I think there's too much grey. What do you say? Grey area stuff where we don't know what we need to do to make this happen. Are Forest, are they just stalling? Are they waiting to get other players in? Are they hoping genuinely that someone else comes in for him? Because, you know, the media will have us say that kind of they're blocking us but offering him elsewhere. Does he want to come to Spurs? Are we his like number 1 choice? So I don't know. All I can say is I'd like to see it happen, because I think it'd be really, really good for us in the Thomas Frank system. And he's Premier League proven. He's English. You know, like he fits what we need. But I don't know if it's going to happen, and I don't really know what other replacement options we actually have been linked with, right? Who could actually genuinely play in that role. I don't know if any of you guys can enlighten about other options maybe that we've been linked with, but I'm not personally sure that Xavi Simons is a like for like for Morgan Gibbs White, and so I don't know.
I think the plan would be to play Xavi Simons wide left. That's what I'm picking up. But can I come in there, Harry, if that's all right?
You can.
Is that I'm actually encouraged by the fact that there's been nothing for probably 4 or 5 days now on the Morgan Gibbs White thing. Particularly, we know what Marinakis is like. He tends to shoot from the hip, whether that's what he says or going on the pitch and publicly berating a manager. And he's not said a word. Now, I don't know. I have no inside information whatsoever on what's gone on. But I suspect the Premier League have got involved and said, this is a really bad look for football. You two clubs having a public spat. Let's stop making comments. Also, there's a lot of work goes on now with dispute resolution, alternative dispute resolution, where instead of going fighting in courts, professional mediators, people who are really skilled in this, get involved in a situation. I say I've got no knowledge, but I would be astonished if between the lawyers, the mediators, the Premier League, behind the scenes, there's an attempt to thrash it out. In terms of legality, everything depends on the player, but I think everything, what I picked up last week, and it sort of makes a lot of sense, is that Manchester City offered somewhere in the region of £60 million plus McAtee. And the player, Morgan Gibbs-White, was not particularly interested in that because he was worried about the game time he might get at City with a World Cup year coming up, that he wants to get into the World Cup setup. And then when Spurs came in, the issue obviously was how did Tottenham find out about the release clause. That's perhaps a separate matter, and whether that should be confidential in a player's contract is a debate for another day. But everything I'm hearing, the player can't be compelled to go and work for another club, to go and play for another club. He just absolutely can't be. If Tottenham have activated the release clause, then contractually Forest must be obliged to sell. I haven't seen the clause, but it must say, if a club agrees to pay this, you're free to talk to them and discuss matters with them. So I'm really confident that this deal will get over the line. The second thing is I've heard a lot of players' names bandied about that we might be interested in. I haven't heard another player that's sort of playing in that sort of hybrid 8/10 role. In fact, we've got a number of players that play there. Just I think that Morgan Gibbs-White gives something a little bit different, something that we don't have. And as I said earlier when I was talking about Kudos, that pace and power to really go at players in that in that as playing in the middle of that three. I haven't heard another target. I have heard that a couple of things that. One, if we don't get our primary targets in various positions, we won't sign anybody. We won't sign players that are third and fourth choice just for the sake of signing a third or fourth choice player. We'd rather stick with what we got, and the squad is actually not that bad. But I'm confident. I'm really confident that the Morgan Gibbs-White thing will get over the line. His wife's illness is a complication, but it's a delay. It's not a postponement, unless the player decides now I'll stay at Forest and sign a longer contract. In which case the matter is dead. So I'm still optimistic, and I feel the silence is a positive, not a negative.
Yeah. I personally really agree with you. I think it's a deliberate PR stunt and smokescreen from Forest. I think it's totally deliberate because they can't lose in their heads Alanga and Gibbs-White in the same week. Mariakis doesn't look good for him, doesn't look good for the Forest ball. So I think we'll end up with him, but maybe paying a little bit of compensation, like 65, 70 million to get it done quicker. That's how I view it. I think Mariakis is hoping that we just give in and pay more. At the moment, it looks like we're being patient. So I think we get it done. Philip, do you want to say something?
I just got one last thing though about the release clause and Morgan Gibbs-White. And I'm not an expert on it, but could it be that there's maybe also a disagreement in terms of how we pay the release clause? Like, I mean, how many installments, how much up front? Because obviously it's clear.
Is what I've been told. I can't vouch for it, but I've seen on a couple of sources 2 installments, £30 million, and we will pay that. That's not the issue.
Okay, well, in that case, if that's correct, then obviously Forest also can't have anything to complain about, right? But then it doesn't make sense because if they would sell him somewhere else, then they would also just bid the release clause, wouldn't they? So that Forest aren't getting making getting an advantage out of selling him elsewhere per se, right? We're not.
But I think their problem, and I can understand it. I mean, I'm empathetic. Is someone comes along and says, "We'll give you 60 million and McAtee," and they don't know that there's a release clause, and then all of a sudden someone comes along and says, "Oh, we'll pay the release clause," and you're suddenly 20 million quid out of pocket as a club. That's quite a significant amount of money, Phil.
But if you're Mariakas, the Forest owner, how bad does it look? And for the Forest board, if you're losing your two best players in Elanga and Gibbs White in the space of a week, I don't think it looks good for Forest after just getting into Europe, especially because we all know, sitting on this panel, in this current market, rightly or wrongly, that Gibbs White is worth a lot more than 60 million. It doesn't look good for the Forest owner. So for me, it's purely a PR stunt. But I want to get the final two comments before we move on. Firstly, Gary, I want to hear from you. Do you think that Forest owner Mariakas is trying to prove a point? Do you think that we'll be patient and get the deal done in the end?
Yeah, I think it'll get done. I think I think they're just trying to save face, like I said previously. I think the fact that they're going to lose multiple players, their top players in 1 or 2 weeks, isn't a good look without getting really anything over the line. They're linked with people, but they haven't got anything over the line. So I think it's a delay tactic at the moment. Equally, with all of us sitting here saying, yeah, the 60 million is a fantastic deal. Mariakas and Nottingham Forest put that in his contract. They didn't have to. It's only down to their own doing. But equally, did they think that he was going to become a £60 million player when they signed him? Probably not. It's just proven how well he's developed over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. But yeah, I definitely think it'll happen. I'd like to have seen it happen by now. I thought today was going to be the day. But I said that last time I was on here about Kudus, and the next day we signed Kudus. So let's hope that history repeats itself. And
I remember that.
Morgan Gibbs White is our player tomorrow.
It's good luck last time you come on, Gary. Fingers crossed we'll get it done tomorrow. I'll definitely come back to you if that's the case. You'll be on pretty much every show. I'm sure you won't mind. So no, they'll have to see about that one. But Lewis, before we move on to other players, Son, Garnacho, Mark Gay, all the players that are kind of making headlines at the moment, as well as Fabio Paratici. I want to ask you lastly on Gibbs White, whether you think we're falling behind in the window because of the Morgan Gibbs White saga, or do you believe that there's business going in the background still? Do you think this has halted all our transfer progress? Because 60 million is a lot of money.
Maybe. I mean, we haven't had any other reports of players we're really linked to or got a strong interest in. I mean, with Kudus, there was interest. I mean, Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein, they reported there was interest, and that personal terms were agreed. Then it was just agreeing the fee. Eventually, got it over the line. Morgan Gibbs White was a bit different. It was said within Ornstein about, and then from him saying the tweet about 2 hours after it said we had concrete interest, we had a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. We've had no real concrete interest in other players. So I would probably agree that, yeah, it is halting our progress. I think all our attention is towards this one deal and trying to get it over the line. I mean, it's just them. I think it's just them being a bit annoyed that I think because there was rumours about City maybe bidding 100 million, maybe bidding, or there's been a lot of rumours about how much he's worth, how much Forest thinks he's worth. And 60 million, him being his private or secret release clause, whatever, and us to hit that nail on the head, 60 million, that seems like a real big loss to them because they signed him from 50 million from Wolves, if we remember, like a few years ago. So to only make 10 million profit on them, to make 10 million profit on Gibbs White to them would seem as nothing really. How much more they could be in the 20, 30 millions echelons of profit as to how much he's developed since joining from Wolves. I mean, they overpaid for him. I think personally, because he was not worth 50 million when they signed him from Wolves, but he's probably worth 70 to 80 million now, and so that's where the problem is rising. They're trying to push as much money out of the deal as possible, but no, I think it is holding our business, and we do need to get this over the line. And if he's not a Spurs player by when it comes to this Saturday, we should probably move on, because if he's not in our Asian tour, or we've not got the player we want, Thomas Frank wants.
Yeah,
as in the number 10 for the Asian tour, is a problem.
That's what I was hearing, though, that we're not just going to, we'll take our second choice, we'll take our third choice. That's not going to happen, and that's why we'll stick with Morgan Gibbs-White, because he's the player that Thomas Frank wants, and so we will stick with that and be patient with it. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm all for that, don't get me wrong. But if it takes too long, then this is going to halt other things, and we just need to be smart here and not try and hope this drags out. And then it comes to a week before deadline day, he's still at Forest. We still have not got the number 10 we want, and then we're just rushing around trying to find a player. We need to be smart with how we approach this.
How awkward must this be for Morgan Gibbs-White, though? Let's just put ourselves in his shoes for a minute. How difficult must that be? I mean, it's not a nice situation for the player. I think we all forget about the position he's in. We want what's best for us. We want what's best for the club. Forest wants, fans want what's best for their club. I understand all of that, but Gibbs-White, it must be very awkward. But quick fire question before we go on to specific players in terms of what positions we need for the rest of the window. So if I'm going to go around one by one, I'm looking for, if I said to you, Harry, what position do you think we'd need? I'd go left back, number 6. And then that'll be it. So I don't want to know why. I just want to know positions. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, 4, whatever you think within reason. So I'm going around in absolutely no particular order. And I'll start with you, Phillip. What positions do we need for the rest of the window?
I still think we need a kind of a 6 option. I don't think it should be a Palhinha kind of player. I don't think we need like such a defensive player. I think we just need a bit more of a 6. A solid centre midfielder. Ideally Wharton, but maybe that's a bit too much, asking for a bit too much, but someone like that. And I would, if we sell Richie and Son, I'd still kind of maybe have a little look for a striker, backup, like a real backup maybe for Solanke. But I don't think we need anything else in defence, because I think Mickey van der Ven will play left back on occasion this season, personally.
So, Phillip, mainly number 6 for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, and a striker.
Yeah, 6. One more, a number 6 or a centre midfielder, and probably a striker, either like to give Solanke competition or as a backup, whatever. Okay. I think
2 or 3 players. All right, thank you very much.
Sorry, that's assuming that Morgan Gibbs.
Yeah, of course. I'll add that to the question. Assuming Morgan Gibbs-White gets over the line, what do we need? That's very important. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Thank you. Very, very key. Ian, for you.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you some names as well. I gather that we are very interested in Wharton. That's what I'm picking up.
Lovely.
Two problems. It's really Parish wants so much money up front. He wants 75. I'm told he wants around 75 million up front, or the thick end of it up front. Levy's saying, I'll give you 70 million or 75 million, but it's 3 instalments of 25 million. Or if you want more of it up front, I want it for 60 million. That's the sort of negotiation that's going on. Part of the problem with Crystal Palace, and I think that's the same with Gui, and it's the same with Eze, is that Steve Parish's time is being almost monopolised by the dispute they've got, funnily enough, with Nottingham Forest and UEFA over their demotion from the Europa League to the Conference League. And it's just one of those complications. But I gather that Wharton is the priority. Hackney would be the second choice. And we have no interest whatsoever in Palhinha. That is all press talk. A player that was being put about because the agent wants to move him on and stuff gets put out there. I gather we've got no interest in there or in Douglas Luiz. That's what I'm told. Kirkin, I think, is the target at left back as a backup on the left side of defence. Around about £12 million. They would like to also bring in Xavi Simons, and we'll see what happens with that. But that is going to be conditional on moving out, in particular, Son and Richarlison to make space in the squad.
Makes sense,
I agree a backup striker would be good, but I'm told that's not a priority. That with Lancashire, they think he's got a lot of potential. Kulusevski can play there. Johnson can play there. Tell can play there. I'm not sure that's good enough. Wizza, Palhinha doesn't fit our... what's the word I'm looking for? Our
mould, yeah.
Our mould. It was, yeah. And the same with Wizard. We just don't pay, 35 million pounds for a player who'll be 29 in September with no residual value. So he's the player I'd actually like, but 25 million, yeah, okay. But Brentford are apparently looking for double that, but that's not seen as a priority. And Gibbs White is seen as a priority, which is why we're being patient. So that's where we're at. They're the players we're looking at. I think we're looking in absolutely the right areas and at players that raise the ceiling. All of those players raise the ceiling, particularly the players for the first team, Wharton, Gibbs White, and Simmons, Gabby Simmons. All raise the bar.
Okay, thank you. Lewis, priority positions for you in the rest of the window?
Would love a number 6. I mean, I think with being very heavy attacking focus right now, maybe with Morgan Gibbs White and Kudus, I think the attack is an issue. And if we sign Morgan Gibbs White, I don't think it becomes an issue anymore. I think it becomes a place where we're very stacked in. It's the midfield. The midfield is the biggest problem area out of the 3 place areas in the pitch. We haven't got enough cover there. We haven't got a defensive anchor, someone who's really strong, someone who can intercept, break up play. Because all our midfielders right now, we've got too many box-to-box midfielders, is what our class it with Sarr, in Bentancur, in Burville. I think Archie Gray, although can be deemed to be a 6, I think he's maybe not physical, not strong enough on the ball. And I think you probably get pushed more upfield. So I think it's the number 6. It's an Adam Wharton would be the dream signing, but I think it would cost too much to prize him from Crystal Palace. I mean, if we do get Morgan Gibbs White over the line for 60 million, I don't know where the money is to come from to get Wharton, unless Daniel Levy has just got gold bars sitting in his house or something. I don't really know, but I would love Adam Wharton, and I think it's a number 6. That has got to be, if we were to somehow get Morgan Gibbs White and someone like Adam Wharton, I think we've actually had one of the best summer windows probably ever had him, in my view, because we've gone out, we signed, we put in big money on players, and so because Daniel Levy would much rather sign 3 players who are all would be 20 million each than one player that's 60 million, and that's the issue. And then if us signing 3 players who are good quality, who have got a 60 million plus price tag, shows the intent that we're going for world class and we're going for top quality players, and that's what we need. So I think we need a world class or top quality number 6.
Thank you, Gary. For you?
Yeah, very similar.
Sorry.
Number 6 for me, left wing and left back. I know we weren't going to talk about players, so I'll keep it brief. I don't see us in any way spending that summer money on a Simmons and a Wharton. I don't believe we've probably got that summer money available, unless we're doing some crazy ass Chelsea deals. But I don't see us. I'd love to. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I don't see us spending that summer money on bringing those 2 players plus Morgan Gibbs White. I think it's Morgan Gibbs White plus a 6 that's more of a lesser amount of money, and then we're probably looking at a left wing once we sell Song, which I think he will go, and probably Richarlison and Solomon. That type of money we'll use on the left side.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to a couple of individuals now. We have spoke about Son, so I'm not going to go into great detail. I'm just going to read out the latest news for him for people listening. So the latest news in the last few hours. Firstly, from Matt Law, Daily Telegraph football news correspondent. He reported that Son left teammates and staff under the impression he was ready to leave Tottenham at the end of last season after winning the Europa League with the club. There's been interest from Saudi Arabia and also the United States, although there have since been suggestions he's happy to stay at Tottenham at least until January for now. And Matt Law also said that Tottenham are understood to miss out on as much as 75% of their fee for playing in Seoul if Son is not part of the training squad. It is believed the fee would be halved if he were to travel, but not to play in the game. So I think that just speaks volumes of the importance of Son. So we have already spoken about that. So I'll bypass that and move on to a player that we've been linked with, surprisingly, I think, in a way, in the last 24 hours. Also, maybe surprisingly, we haven't been linked with him that much before. And that is Alejandro Garnacho of Manchester United. Ian, I'm going to kick it off with you. Is he someone you'd like to see the club go for? Is he an alternative to someone like, let's say Son leaves? Is he a good kind of replacement, I suppose?
Thomas Frank has a no dickheads policy. My worry is that Garnacho is a dickhead or a prima donna. I mean, I was in Bilbao. If you weren't in Bilbao, you watched it on the television. When he came on, Manchester United looked a different animal. and he's no doubt got an abundance of talent. The other name I saw linked tonight was Mainu as well. I mean, it's just we can talk names ad infinitum. I think both of them are superb footballers, and you do wonder as well that Manchester United is such a a shit show at the moment, that players are being held back because they're playing in that system. They're playing with a lot of poor players. I mean, as Adrian Garnacho, no end product. There is no doubt if he'd have had an end product, we'd have lost that Europa League game, and it would be a very different Tottenham Hotspur that we're looking at for this season. Probably not for me. Probably not for me. I think we've got other players. We've got the Mikey Moores, we've got Solomon, we've got Yang, we've got Tell, we've got Odebear. Not for me. Not for me. But as Dylan Coyes says, Mainu, different animal. And a different animal, where would he play? He's almost a hybrid between a 6 and an 8, Mainu, where people are saying we need someone to just shore it up at the back. I'd take Mainu, but I mean, Garnacho, incredible. No one plays well. This is the problem. I mean, the people are making really good points in the chat that how people play at Manchester United and Man United's last couple of years doesn't really tell you much about their ability. And Mainu, for example, is a player that when he burst onto the scene is a fabulous footballer, and he's just gone backwards. And you just think with a new club, with a new coach, with a fresh challenge, the best of him is way still yet to come.
I'd be all over him. If he was available for 30 million, I'd be all over him. I think he's very similar to what Kudus can do. He's scored 16 goals since he's been at Man United. He's 10 assists in 90 odd games he's played. I'm just looking at the stats now. That ain't bad, really, in a poor Man United team. Last season, 6 goals, 2 assists, and they weren't any better than us. They're probably just as worse as we were. And he weren't playing all the time. I like him, skillful, unpredictable, good on the ball, go past the player. There's no fear about him. And while we don't know if he is a dickhead or not, sometimes you need. I take that as confidence. He knew that in that cup final he could have made a big difference. And when he weren't playing, I was pretty happy he weren't playing. But I think he could, under Thomas Frank could definitely turn him into a better player. He's a very good coach. He's reported available at like 40 million. That if we could sell, if Son goes at 40 million, which I think is probably his base, that ain't a bad shout.
Okay, decent shout. I mean, there's a possibility that quite a few forward players, I suppose, attackers, wingers, if you like, will leave the club this summer. I think Son, there's a possibility. Solomon, Gill, highly likely. Richarlison could jump. There's lots that we could be looking at. I
forgot we had Brian Gill.
Yeah, Brian Gill, still there. I read today, and I can't remember the source from. I can't find it again, which is really annoying. But we could accept 6 to 8 million. I mean, we're proper clutching at straws. Let's just be clear: we paid £25 million for this guy and gave away Eric Lamela, who was a good player for the club. Let's be clear about that.
I'd have rather kept Lamela.
I mean, if it wouldn't have swapped them like now, I wouldn't even swap them with no money involved. It's just an absolutely shocking deal. But the last player I want to get onto before we touch briefly on Fabio Paratici, who could make a return back onto the scenes, it's Mark Gahey. All of a sudden, links have come from today. We talk about having centre-backs in abundance, centre-back depth here, there and everywhere. Here's another big name that popped up in January last minute as well. Crystal Palace's Mark Gahey. So I didn't see this coming. So let's firstly read out the latest news for context, and we go through it. So Matt Law again reports that Tottenham are weighing up a move to rival Liverpool for the signing of Mark Gahey. I would absolutely argue that Liverpool need this signing a lot more than we do. Lewis, I'll kick it off with you if you don't mind. Would you like to see us sign him, and do you see him as this is like I do, kind of it'd be the replacement if Romero leaves rather than someone we sign as well as like likes of Romero staying in the club? It doesn't feel right, does it?
No, it feels like a total waste of everyone's time. Everyone's money, to be honest. I mean, say everyone's money. I mean, we just don't need him. It's not a centre back depth. If the centre back situation stays as how it is at Spurs, we don't need him. I think he's a good player. I'm totally with that. I think he's fantastic centre back. I mean, he obviously talks of him leaving, going to Newcastle last summer and last January. it depends on the fee, but I think I'm not throwing 50, 60 or whatever million at another centre-back when our midfield needs it a lot more. I mean, I think Ian's telling me that we need to throw up more than 70 million, maybe 80 or 90 million. But
so yeah, we use for 50, 60. I think 70 million more realistic.
It probably is more realistic as is homegrown talent as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, we just don't need a centre back right now. If Romero goes, then yeah, fine, go in for him. I'm fine by that. But if Romero and Van der Ven are staying, don't go anywhere near. Plough that money into the midfield or where more problem areas. So it's
Right, I want to get a little discussion going. Not too big one because I'm wary of time. But Philip, Mark Gay or Christian Romero for you? Who's better?
Romero. I mean, Mark Gay is a good defender, but I've personally never rated him as highly as some people have. I don't think he's worth 80 million or 90 million. I think there's better options in Europe than Mark Gay, to be honest. We don't, as Lewis said, we don't need him right now. And anyway, we got Vuskovic, so why are we getting Mark Gay when we got the absolute legend Vuskovic? But actually, I'd rather spend that money on Wharton. Like, put that money towards getting Wharton. That's what we need. We don't need another centre back. Even if we got rid of Romero, if we got 50, 60 million for him, I don't think we need to replace him with a 70, 80 million pound player. Honestly, I don't think so, because I think under Frank, our defence is going to get much more compact anyway. And I think that we're going to have much more options. I think that Danzo is good. We haven't even talked about Danzo, but I think Danzo is good enough to start X amount of games for us. I don't think
I was going to ask you, Philip. So let's say Romero leaves. I don't think he will, to be clear. Would it be Van der Ven and Danzo for you as the two starting centre-backs?
Probably yes. But yeah, probably yes. And I don't think because the only other alternative then would be to buy another big money defender, and I don't think we'd do that. And I don't think we would buy that Bournemouth defender either for like 70 million. Like, I don't think that would be the right move. I think Danzo's good enough to kind of replace Romero if we sell him, which I don't think we will. I don't think we'll sell Romero now because I don't think there's enough teams that come in for him, and I don't think he's desperate to leave anymore by the looks of it. And actually, as someone in the chat there, Terry Wrights just said, I don't like get on Dragason's back all the time, but I think that under Frank's system, if he gets fit again, I think he could play. He can play a squad role there, maybe just for a season or something. But we don't need to go out and spend 70, 80 million on a replacement for Romero. And even if we did, I believe there'd be better options than Mark Gay. And I think he also I think that he wants to go to Liverpool anyway. Like if he's got the choice, if Liverpool are in for him, he's going to Liverpool. I'm not sure.
He wanted to, didn't he, last window? I mean, I think his head was in Liverpool because he started the campaign off awfully, as did Crystal Palace. I mean, they did turn it around, but I think he'd personally go to Liverpool. I do agree with you on that. But Ian, can I throw another name, kind of spanner into the works, I suppose? Eli Sabani of Bournemouth, is he a name that you consider? I know that we've got lots of centre-backs, some hypotheticals here, but Romero had to leave, for example. Would you look for him, or do you agree with Philip that we don't need to really go elsewhere? We've got enough centre-back depth. I'm
told at the price point, it's ridiculous that
very high
people are talking about him. That's all I'm told for a player at 70 million, for a player at that level. Who I've got people asking me, who is he? I'm told that the player we would want if Romero went was is it Scavini, if I pronounced that right?
Yeah.
From Atalanta would be about half the price. And I look. We can all be proved wrong with this, but I get the impression that we are not. The Bournemouth player is simply not an option at £70 million.
I mentioned Scalvini on the last time we were on.
You did.
He can play as a holding midfielder as well. He's still young. He's captain at Atalanta. Probably can get him a lot cheaper than any of the links that we have got or have been having. I just think a lot of these is just talk because it's quiet, and we're Tottenham. We're always linked with everybody.
We are. We're the club of exploring. We're the club of interested, admiring. Yeah, everything possible, scouting. observing
Looking at.
every single word. Yeah, looking at. Honestly,
Considering
listed.
making an offer for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Every
bollocks.
single name.
Yeah, it's all talk, and if ultimately if Gahey's got a choice of us or Liverpool, he's going to go to Liverpool. I don't think he's worth the money that's reported. The guy at Bournemouth looks like he's going to PSG. I agree with everyone here. I think the money could be spent better in other areas, and we can use Dragusin and Danso and Vuskovic where we need to. But if we had to spend the money, I've always sort of stood on that. Scalvini, and I've talked about him for a number of years because he's an outstanding footballer.
He is,
but he has just come back from an ACL injury. A lot of last year was out with an ACL, so he may not even be ready for the new season. So he might even be off the.
Okay. Last but not least, Fabio Paratici. His 30-month suspension is officially over. He's strongly linked to come back to Tottenham. Also, AC Milan is linked with. Can he play centre back? Yeah. Well, we don't need any centre backs. Come on, we need to be asking, can he play the number 6?
Left back.
That's the big question.
yeah.
Left back.
Tell me he's not another central defender.
No, can you imagine? I'm sure. I mean, another goalkeeper as well. We totally don't need that at the moment. But tell you what, Gary, I'll kick it off with you. Would you like to see him return to the club firstly?
Yes, if he's going to make impact like he did with sort of Romero and Kulusevski deals. I think he done well there, and Doggy and things like that. I think there were some good deals. As I've said many times, I'm a huge Serie A fan. Serie A is sort of up there for me with the Premier League. He obviously likes to, because he was there so long, he likes to go into Serie A and look at these players. So I get a little bit excited when I see some of them potentially come in. I think he's very good at what he does. My only concern is there needs to be a synergy at the top of the club all the way down to the bottom. And I think that's where we struggle with players that we are signing. We're not developing them because we're bringing in the wrong coach that clearly has no interest in developing players. For instance, Mourinho, Conte, they just wanted win now players, and then we're going out signing 18, 19-year-olds. We definitely need Thomas Frank and Joan Lang to be in synergy of where we need to be in 1, 2, 3 plus years, and I think that he needs to slot into that as well. I'm concerned that if he starts bringing in players that are not going to fit Thomas Frank's system, we're going to be back to where we are again in 18 months' time, where he's gone, well, we're looking for a new manager, and then we'll go, well, actually, it's because we haven't brought in the right players. It's because we've not got a full alignment throughout the club. So I think if he slots in with that and he's happy with that, I think that he can definitely make the deals in and out of the club better. So yes, but I think it's on a condition that he's able to slot in.
The Don may be back after all. Lewis, do you think it will happen? Do you want it to happen?
Might happen. I saw him at this. I think it was Bodo Glimt at home. As I was leaving, I saw him walking out the stadium. I actually did, yeah. I can't remember if it was Bodo Glimt. I need to ask my brother because I was with my brother at the time. It was Brighton at home, Bodo Glimt at home. I generally saw him walking out. I'm being deadly serious, but I just didn't tell anyone. But no, I saw him walking out. I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I think under his time we dipped into the Serie A very well. I think we've always have dipped into Serie A well the last 3 seasons. I mean, names were dropping there: Kulusevski, Bentancur, Doggy, Vicario. I mean, Dragusin. Well, okay, fine, but we've dipped into Serie A a lot. We've dipped into Serie A a lot in the last 3 to 4 years, and that was probably all down to him, or a lot of it was down to him, is what I'd say. And we dipped into Juve with Bentancur and Romero played for Juve as well. So. Bentancur, Kulusevski, Romero, all 3 of them played for Juventus at some point. That's Fabio Paratici doing, and I would entertain the idea of him coming back. Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember why he had a suspension. I think it was something dodgy he did with Juventus. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't, and I mean, I was still. I mean, it was a theory. I don't know, but of people that during his suspension, he was still like talking to Daniel Levy and still offering like advice and offering. Like players to go for and stuff like like off the book sort of information and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, I do believe I did see him. I mean, I don't know if my mind was going crazy, but
no, you're not the only one. I spoke to Chris Callan. He said he saw him as well, and I think you got a picture of him. So yeah, I don't think the only one saw him.
I think I think he'll be back. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he's in and around the stadium. If he's talking to like the higher ups at Spurs, yeah, I think he'll be back, and I don't mind the idea. I just think, in all honesty, I mean, I'm not going to try and go on a tangent about Daniel Levy here, but I think we need to take the footballing decisions away from Daniel Levy as much as possible, and let people like Fabio Pacici, who have got the knowledge of football, to make the footballing decisions, and leave the business decisions down to him. Don't let him get involved in the football side. Let him get involved in the business side of football, and let people like Fabio Pacici make the footballing decisions.
Okay, thank you. Any final comments about anything, everyone, or about Paratici? Anyone got anything to say?
I would just agree with Gary what he said about Paratici slotting in. I'll definitely take him back because he's obviously proven that he's got an eye for a player. He knows Serie A very well. He's got the scouting network, hasn't he? He's, famously always on his mobile, isn't he, with his earphones in, phoning someone up. He might be ordering a takeaway, of course, as well. But like he's always active, isn't he? He's always doing something, and he's got that network. But as Gary said, though, like with the current setup with Frank and Johan Lange, who obviously know each other really well. They seem to have a good setup. Vinay, the new CEO's come in. I think it's clear that Levy already is not as involved. Levy might not be involved at all, like anymore, really. Like there's been rumours, hasn't there? But he might not really be actively involved, apart from maybe signing off at the last level, right, on signings and stuff at the moment. But
Yeah.
I think if we're getting in Fabio, yes, but what's his role going to be? Is he going to be kind of like the MD again, or is he going to be above Lange? Is Lange going to be reporting into him? I'm actually not sure.
As I get it, Phil, that pretty well the chief exec in terms of the football side is now Vinny Venkatashan.
Yeah.
That he is really running the football side.
Yeah.
Levy won't be, because he's a hands-on person. I think in terms of the agreeing transfers and negotiating the final ends of transfers, I suspect he's always going to be very involved in that. But remember, they've got this hotel, they've got the training complex, the women's complex at White Webs, they've got those drawings that came out for the 4 big tower blocks behind the north stand. Levy is a land economist. That's what he does. And I suspect that he will become much, much more involved in the property side of the business, which is going to need really full-time operation with all those projects going on. And it will leave the football side to Venkatashan, to Lange, and probably Paratici. Only they'll know whether there's room for him in the structure. If they've got, they'll have a structure there, and they will know. So it's not right. In fairness, Harry, it's not for us. They will know if there's a place for him in the structure, whether they've left a place for him. He's obviously bought a lot of very good players, 1 or 2 shit ones, but a lot of very good players. And I think he can only enhance the recruitment team that we've got.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any final comment?
I just wanted to say on that, though, again, that I think his benefit would be as a kind of on the scouting, like talent side. And I'm not sure that if we brought him in as kind of like a boss, like kind of running something or being responsible for structures and stuff again internally, I'm not sure that would be the right move. But if we can bring him in to utilize the scouting network and maybe work with Lange together, right, to literally identify the players and use his, literally his contact list, then I'm all for it. Like, absolutely. I don't think you'd be silly not to do that, right, at the end of the day. And he's obviously up for it. So yeah, we should do it, but we need to be careful, I think, that we don't kind of not ruin the new structure that we've got, right, but maybe just make it a bit more too complicated. Because I think Frank obviously gets on really well with Lange, and I think we should just make sure that kind of is, that we've got happy families kind of there and it's all working. But we're too far. I think, but as Ian said, we're too far away, right, to know, how it works on a day-to-day basis, and whether Paratici would be traveling a lot or whether he'd be sitting in his office. We don't know any of this. So, but we would take him back, wouldn't we? At the end of the day, I think.
Yeah,
I think so. I think that wraps us up nicely. So thank you to everyone who's watched. For a lot of you watching, gone in.
Ian's got something.
Sorry, yeah, just some stuff on the Spurs Talk Show chat group that I'm in, because we were all talking about whether we need a backup striker, and I think we're all generally agreed, yeah, if one was available, but it's not the priority. There are other areas of the team. There's a lot of talk on that tonight. Johnson at 6'1", that Frank, when he tried to sign him for Brentford, was very much in favour of playing him quite further forward and central. That maybe he needs a bit of toughening up a bit, but he doesn't have the pace of a winger. But they really see him as, with his hold-up play and his ability to hit the target, as a potential striker, either with Solanke or in place of Solanke. Whatever. Just interesting chat. I don't know how true that is, but I didn't realise he was 6'1", and he does score with his head as well as with his feet, and both feet.
In the bad chat, I know that Richarlison's the other one that was people have been saying the last couple of days that it was going to be Richarlison and Solanke, and he didn't even play in the team. So who knows what's going on? It's just there's so much chatter, and I think that social media doesn't help because it's just so much of it that comes out.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll end there if you don't mind. Thank you to everyone who's listening live on YouTube. A lot of you still listening live. So thank you very much. If you're new, please do like and subscribe. Got a lot of content coming in the next few days. Very good time. So thank you very much. And thank you also recently for 3,000 subscribers over on YouTube. If you're also listening, or additionally, thank you over on a podcast platform, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. The support at the moment is unreal. 2025 is already on track to be our best year to date. Channel created at the end of 2021. We're halfway through the year already. So thank you very much for the continued support. And I want to thank my panel tonight. Who've been absolutely amazing, and it's been a long one. So apologies all for keeping you, but hope that was okay. Let's go through and see where you can find them all on social media. Gary, thank you. It's great to have you on. Pretty much regular now. It's great to be able to say that. You've been on lots of podcasts, get here, there, and everywhere. It's good to hear. Where can people find you on social media?
It's nice to be the prettiest girl at the ball all of a sudden. Everybody seems to want me on their show, so I appreciate you. I'm always happy to sit and help you out and do whatever I can for anybody in the Tottenham community. But yeah, on Twitter for me, it's at Gary R. Ward. Obviously Tottenham content, Football Manager obsession, and some Serie A thrown in as well. So welcome anytime.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much. For you long show of your own yesterday, so really appreciate
I didn't know if
this
I
one.
would make it. Yeah,
you done well.
I'm one of the co-founders of Spurs Diehards. We were set up just a year ago. Already won awards for best new show and most underrated show. We go out on a Friday, a Tuesday, but my show goes out at 10 o'clock at the moment on a Sunday night. Spurs Diehards, TTID. Always a really good discussion. There's a few people from your chat that's come to that. People want to find me, they'll get me at Shaggy1712. I didn't put that on this, but it was just an old nickname that I had, at Shaggy1712. Gary's laughing, but yeah, it was a nickname that came about. It has no sexual connotation whatsoever, you dirty sod. So you can get me there. Spurs Diehards is where I'm mainly at now.
Lovely.
And subscribe and like the channel. We're only at 1,250 or thereabouts, so we're not got that, but we've only been going a year, so it's phenomenal numbers for a channel that's only been going a year.
Ian, I have to confess, when I put out the promotion tweets of the podcast before and after, when you're on, I do have to chuckle when I put your name in. I think, no, surely that's not right. I do have to look and think twice. So yeah, there's a reason I don't read out the Twitter handles anymore. But
Yeah.
no, thank you very much for coming on. Good to
Well,
know the context.
it came about whether my middle name was, which is Stuart, it was Scooby or
Right.
Shaggy, because they couldn't work out what it was. So the Shaggy just stuck. That's all it is. Yeah.
Oh dear. Right. Thank you, Phillip. Thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find you over in Germany?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Harry. It's always a pleasure. I've been on a few shows and podcasts over the few last months, but it's always a pleasure to be on yours. Going to probably start my own one, actually, with a couple of Spurs mates and also some German or European-based fans as well, shortly as well.
Nice.
Mainly on Twitter, at Frankfurt Spurs. I tweet a lot of Bundesliga-related content as well. Got quite a good overview of the talent in the Bundesliga as well. And actually just been promoted onto the board of our official German Spurs supporters club,
Great.
which is actually called the German
Well done,
Lily
Phil.
White South Germany Spurs. So we're really kind of doing a big push to grow that in Germany, but also really
Great.
to obviously build the ecosystem of Spurs fans in Germany and Europe as well. So thanks for having me on, and always a pleasure. Thank you.
No, well done, mate. That's really good to hear. Keep up the good work with that. That's really important, and I really always enjoy your tactical analysis side of things. So keep up the good work. Lewis, thanks as well for coming back on. Where can people find you on social media? I'm not going to let you say it this time. She say it every time. You're not active on your socials, but where can people still follow them?
Just Twitter or X, as I don't know what people call it these days, but yeah, on there, Romero 17 season there, and might have to change if he leaves, but hopefully he doesn't leave. But yeah, and I'm on there when I post every once in a month, so follow it if you want.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much. And that wraps us up nicely. You can follow me at Harry Scarfe 22 across social media. Most importantly, check out all these guys on the social media, their channels, their links, etc. And like and subscribe to the channel, drop the podcast a follow, and 5-star review. For now, a massive come on you Spurs. Thank you very much, guys.